How's it going, everybody? My name is Austin, or Butter Guy, or Tonk Double Donk, whatever. Depends on where you find me. Tonk Double Donk on Twitch, Butter Guy everywhere else. But you can just call me Austin if you want. If you call me anything. So, let's get into it. I'm doing this is my first Vampire Survivors video. And I'm probably going to do more. I don't know if people want to see. I don't know if Vampire Survivors is that popular anymore, but I just sort of started no-lifing it, and I had the urge to make some tier list videos because I didn't really see any out there. At least none that were up to date with the DLC and everything like that. So, I've been sort of no-lifing this game for a while, a little bit now, the past month or month and a half. And I've 100%ed it, at least as far as the achievements go, up to now. So I think I have a little bit of knowledge, I guess you would say. But feel free to disagree with me, yell at me, shout me out in the comments, shout me down in the comments, call me out on Twitter, L-ratio me, whatever you gotta do. So, doing a weapons tier list first. I think I'm gonna do a characters tier list, and then maybe an Arcanas tier list. We'll see. But the weapons tier list, I think, is probably the most important because... Oh, I'll do a passives tier list, too. I'll do that after. But because... I was saying the weapons are probably the most important because Vampire Survivors is a very evolution-based, like, late game sort of game. And if you can't get through, if you can't get through huge health bars and have a shitload of AOE, you're not going to make it to minute 30. Most likely, it doesn't really matter how good you are at maneuvering because they just pile in. It's impossible. You need to be able to kill them. It's important to be able to kill enemies and lots of them and do a shitload of damage. Obviously. So with that, you'll find that this game is very evolution based, and if you don't know what that means, basically every single weapon pretty much has an evolution which basically just combines it with a passive and makes it stronger. Very strong in some cases. So I'm doing the weapons tier list. I'm including all the weapons, and I'm also including in this, just because it's easy, I'm going to include the evolutions, unions, and the gifts. I did forget to put on one of the super version of this, but I'll put it on at the end. So with that being said, I'm going to rank all of these weapons, obviously from AFK God mode to basically worthless. So I'm going to rank everything on its own merit, but I will let you guys know if/when something evolves into something powerful, and then when you might want to grab it in that case. Alrighty then. So let's get into it. So first off, obviously, we've got the good old whip. The good old whip. The first weapon that everyone will pretty much be using in this game. It's okay. Basically, it attacks horizontally. It goes left and right. It does scale with a mount. And you can get a good amount of these going. It starts off 10 damage, which is okay. It's not great, but it's not terrible. And then as you evolve it as you level it up rather, at the max rank, I think it does 40 damage. Let's see, it does 10, 15, 20, yeah, like 40 damage. And then it increases its base area as well. And at the max rank, without any other amount, it will do 2 whips, 1 on either side. So this weapon is okay. I think I'm going to put it in the okay. It's very middle of the range. You're not really going to be able to go late with this, but it does evolve into a pretty nice evolution. And then that evolution also has a union, so you kind of get like a triple whammy with this, because it evolves into something nice, and then it unions, so it becomes 1, and then you can pick up another weapon slot after that, which is nice. But that being said, the whip itself is just fine. You can probably get to minute 15 with this, and maybe some other random things, but it's not gonna make your run for sure. It's fine. Yeah, it's just okay. All right, next up, we've got the Magic Wand. Magic Wand is honestly, it's whatever. Oh, sorry. This also, the AoE, it has a little bit of AoE where it goes through enemies. It's just you have to actually hit them. So the Magic Wand, honestly, I don't like this weapon very much. It does 10 damage, the same as the whip. But the thing is, it shoots like a missile to whatever is the closest enemy. So you don't really have that much. You have a little bit of control over it, but you really don't have that much control. It does scale with amount as well, but it's like you get one extra shot. It shoots them in like a sequence. And then every missile can only hit one enemy, and then it disappears. It can't pass through walls. It can't do anything else. It gets a little better when you mix Arcanas in. That being said, the whip also gets very strong when you mix a certain Arcana in. But, yeah, the Magic Wand is fine. At max rank, you get 4 projectiles without any other amount. And then it can pass through one additional enemy, and then it does like 30 damage. Okay. I'm going to put this in the kind of doggy tier. I might move this up to like the end of okay tier later once I start putting all of this stuff on. But that being said, this thing is pretty mid, and the evolution is also pretty mid, which is not really what you're looking for when you're trying to, you know, do a late run or a deep run in Vampire Saviors. Sometimes, that being said, sometimes you don't really have a choice, especially early game, and then you just kind of have to suck it up. So, whatever. So that being said, Magic Wand, pretty mid. Next up is the Knife. So the Knife, I have fond memories of this because I unlocked Gennaro and basically only played him until I got enough money to upgrade and get the amount unlocks and all the good stuff that you kind of need to do deep runs. So Knife, yeah, let's get into it. So this thing is pretty, honestly, it's kind of not that good by itself. It upgrades into the 1000 Edge or something, I think it's called 1000 Edge, where it shoots a lot, which is normally a pretty mid-tier evolution, but again with the slash Arcana, it becomes actually very good. And then there's another Arcana, Iron Blue Will, that makes it fucking really good if you manage to get both. So in a specific sense, this knife, or sorry, you couldn't see it, my fat head's in the way. Knife, hello. With that sense, it can be one of the strongest weapons, but again, I'm ranking them all based on their individual merit. And the Knife is fine. So it just shoots them out straight in front of you. So that being said, it is nice because you have full control. Hi, Nima. Sorry, my cat is sorry about that. Here. Do you want to talk to the Vampire Savior community, Nima? Here she is. There's my Nemoid. Alright, now get out of here. Alright, sorry about that. Brief aside. Okay, so, yes, so the Knife is nice because you do have basically complete control over it. It shoots it wherever your character's facing, whatever direction you're holding the thumbstick in, or if you're playing on mouse and keyboard like a degenerate, whatever direction you're holding WSAD. So this one's okay. It gets a lot of projectiles. It doesn't scale super well with amount, but basically every level it gets another projectile. So it gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 basically at max rank, and it does by base 6.5 damage, and then once you get it, it does like 20 damage basically. Maybe a little more or less, give or take. So not great damage at max rank, but you do get a shitload of amount, and then at the max rank it passes through one enemy. So you get like 7 projectiles that can pass through one additional enemy. So it's kind of good AoE, but it's all right in front of you. So I would put this knife probably definitely below the whip. Maybe down here more once I put some more stuff on the list here. And again, the evolution for this is fine. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty medium, just average kind of weapon. All right, so next is the axe. The axe, hello. So the axe is pretty good. I like the axe a lot. It scales with slash if you get that arcana. I think it also scales with it also does, yeah, Iron Blue Will also makes it bounce, which is very strong. So basically the axes get thrown upward, and then they kind of come down. They do a shitload of damage. Base rank, it does 20 damage. And as you get going, it can fire, let's see, 3 projectiles, passes through like up to 5 enemies, and then it ends up doing like 80 damage. 2, 4, 6, yeah, like 80 damage, which is a good amount. It's a good amount. 80 damage is not a small amount, but it's, you know, it's not great either. Yeah, it can pierce like +4 enemies. So it does a lot of damage. This can kind of save you in like the 10 to 15 minute of the run, if you are good with them, because again they kind of go up and then they come down around you. So you want to keep the enemies sort of above you that you're trying to kill. So it has a bit of skill expression. And then it also evolves into a pretty strong evolution with, might I add, a very nice passive as well that you're going to want most of the time. That's another thing, is some of the evolution weapons you kind of have to take a bummer passive item. Not the case with the axe, because Candelabra is very strong. It's one of the stronger passives. So I would put axe. I'm going to put it in the good tier for now. I might bump it down to like the top of okay, once we get into the really good stuff. Yeah, it's fine, especially early when you're just trying to unlock stuff. It's a good DPS thing, especially if you get the cooldown book, Forbidden Book. I forget what it's actually called. I just call it the Red Book. That reduces cooldown, and then you're throwing axes all over the place. It's super nice. Super nice. And if you don't evolve it, you can't. It's still useful in the late game, like 15 to 20 minute range. Sometimes, I mean, it does a little bit of knockback too, so it can sort of help you up to the 30-minute mark, but you definitely need other stuff. You need evolutions, basically, to get to the 30-minute mark. I guess you don't need them, but they're extremely helpful. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll take a quick drink. Delicious. Probably cut out all these throat clearings. All right, next up is the cross. The cross. Hello. Sorry, my fat head's in the way. And it's going to stay that way too. So the cross, I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this item, this weapon. With Arcana, it can get pretty good, I suppose. It does 5 damage base, and basically what it does is it like shoots out in front of you a little ways, and if it doesn't really hit too much stuff, it then swings back all the way off the map. So you do have control over where these get shot, and they can open up a really, especially again in the early game, it can open up like a nice escape route for you when you shoot it out in front of you, and then it zooms backwards and it clears a bunch of stuff. You can hustle it and attempt to get the fuck out of dodge. So with that being said, it's fine with that respect. It does... Oh, it aims at the nearest enemy. Ooh, never mind. Never mind. For some reason, I always thought it shot where I was facing, but I must have just not paid too much attention. Okay, well, it makes it a little harder. It's the same as this wand. But that being said, you can still follow it back and get the escape route thing that I was talking about before. As it levels up, it gets much better. It does scale better with levels. It ends up doing 35 damage. It gets more area too, like 20% more area, which is nice. Projectile speed, which is fine. It's not the thing that you would, go for first, but it is pretty good. And then you get 3 of them, I think, at max level. So it's pretty good when you're leveling them up. I don't know, they're just fine. I wouldn't put them in the kind of doggy tier. I think I would put it in okay. Because it's just fine. It does damage. It's just a big spinny thing. Yeah. And then this evolves into Heavenly Sword, which is not super good in my opinion. And you have to take Clover as the passive, which again it's like, whatever. Clover is kind of a take it or leave it thing for me, because at the end of the day, if you're doing a deep run to 30 minutes, you're going to get everything to max level no matter what. It's just going to happen. So the Clover is just kind of like a mid-game thing, like early to mid-game, getting lucky with your drops, and your chest opens and your amount of things listed for upgrading. But again, once you get into having rerolls, having banishes, having skips even, I don't even find myself using skip most of the time, because you can really manipulate the item pool with skips and or with banishes and rerolls. So yeah, it's whatever. But we'll get into that in the passives one. I probably will do a passives tier list after this. So the cross is fine, and Heavenly Sword, honestly, sometimes I feel like the evolution is worse than just having these flying around. But that just might be me. All right, so next up we have King Bible. King Bible. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Look at this thing. I love King Bible. This thing is very good. It's super nice, especially when you get a mount, especially when you evolve it. It's super, super good. So it starts out with 10 damage, and it's just 1 Bible orbiting around you. So early it is kind of hard to use, but there is this skill expression where it orbits around you in a predictable pattern, and you can sort of run into enemies and clear out like a whole drive-by of bats or something with it if you manage to do it correctly. So, excuse me, the Bibles really love a mount. It's one of their favorite things. The more Bibles you get, the better, because they will eventually form like a ring around you. And in Vampire Survivors, zones of safety are a big deal. And when the Bibles just create a zone of safety around you at all times, it's very fucking nice. It's very difficult for enemies to get in on you when you're using the Bible properly. Even up to like minute 15, even up to minute 20 sometimes, because they just fly around. It has like a 2-second hitbox delay or something, which basically means the same enemy can't be hit with the Bible more often than like 2 seconds. But I think each Bible has its own hitbox thing, so you can sort of grind them down when you have a lot of them. It also gets pretty good with Arcanas, but it's whatever. So as it levels up, it gets very good. It does 20 more damage, so it does 30 damage for each Bible every 2 seconds to one enemy. But again, it's more about the AoE thing. It gets 50% area, which is nice. The Bibles get bigger, hits more things. More speed, like 60% projectile speed, which just makes them orbit faster. You get 1 plus a second to the duration, which is just it's going around you. And then you get plus 3 amount. So at max rank, without anything else, you have 4 Bibles orbiting you fairly quickly, which is super nice. It also evolves into Unholy Vespers, which is one of the better, I'm not going to say best, but it is one of the stronger, especially early, because you can get this evolution pretty easily, I would say, if you get Bible. And Unholy Vespers is super good. And it evolves with Spellbinder, which again is another very strong passive item. So I am gonna put Bible in the good tier above the axe, because it's very nice. Alrighty then, moving on to Fire Wand. Move this over here so you can see it. Fire Wand. I don't really like Fire Wand that much. It does a good amount of damage. I definitely would pick this over this wand if you're, if you have the chance or the choice. But so basically, it shoots out fireballs. It shoots them at a random enemy. That is the biggest bummer of this weapon. It shoots at a random enemy. You can't really make plans around this. You just kind of have to follow where the fireballs go. And that being said, they're not that strong. Each one can hit one enemy on base before disappearing. Each fireball, I mean, it shoots like 3 or something. It shoots an arc. Yeah, it shoots an arc of fireballs. It's like 3 of them or something. And then I think a mount is added to the end of the arc. So basically, it has 3 normally, and then when you have more amount, it will extend the arc of fireballs that get shot out. So it's okay. It does 20 damage base, which is pretty nice. It does do a bit of knockback, and then it eventually ends up doing 90 base damage and 60% projectile speed. Basically only levels up projectile speed and damage. So I would say it would be nice if it fired in front of you or even at the closest enemy, because then you can kind of plan around it. But the fact that it fires at a random enemy just ruins your day so often, because you'll just be running around, there'll be a pack in front of you, and then one like bat behind you, and it just shoots all of the fucking shots at the bat, and you just want to end the fucking run sometimes. But I mean, that being said, it does do a lot of damage, even unevolved. So if you're feeling lucky, it's okay. I think I would. The evolution also is not that good. It evolves into Hellfire. And I will say Spinach, which is the evolution item, the combo item that you need, is a good one. But I'm going to put this in the kind of doggy for now. I'm going to put it above this wand, obviously. It's hard to justify taking this over other items. Because, I mean, you're not going to be hurting for damage in the late game, even in the mid game, if you take like Bible and some of the other ones that we're going to talk about. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. It gets a little better with a couple Arcanas, but even then, it's just too hard to use consistently. And yeah, whatever. Moving on. We've got truck nuts. We've got the truck nuts. The garlic, the front nuts, the truck nuts, whatever, garlic. When I very first started playing Vampire Survivors, I thought this was a fucking godsend item. Basically, what it does is it gives you an aura that you can kind of see around you, and it just does damage to stuff that is in the aura. If you get cooldown, I think it brings down the hitbox delay for Garlic, and then how does this even work? Yeah, so even if they leave the area of Garlic and then you move back in, the hitbox delay will still not allow them to get hit by it until the hitbox delay wears down. If hitbox delay wasn't a thing, Garlic would be much better. Excuse me. But it is, and it is sad. It does go well with the red book, cooldown book, but it just does not enough damage. Like I said, I'd grab this a lot in my early runs, because if you get Garlic, this alone will carry you to like minute 10. Because everything has really low health. It only needs to get hit one time to die. Especially in the forest, when the drive-by bats start flying by, you can just run at them like a madman, clear them all out basically, and you didn't have to do anything at all. So that being said, it's not like totally worthless, because it can kind of carry you to mid-game, or like early mid-game, I guess. I guess I'll go over the stats. So basically it does 5 damage base, which is whatever. It has a 1.3 second hitbox cooldown, which can be reduced. So basically at max rank, it does plus 9 base, so it does like 14 damage, which is like wee. It gets 100% area, so it doubles the area, which is very nice. And then it takes the 0.3 seconds off of the cooldown, so it's just a flat 1 second cooldown for the hitbox delay. Which is okay, I guess. But you're just, like, eventually, when the enemies don't just die to 1 tap of damage, they're going to get in on you, they're going to make your day sad. So the Garlic is it's pretty doggy. I'm going to put it probably below the Wand for now. But that being said, if you are struggling early, and you just want to kind of get unlocks, you want to get to like minute 10 faster and easier without having to think, you can grab the Garlic. You can even play Poe, who starts with the Gorlick, and you can just sit there. You can AFK. You can just sit there till the run ends, collect your gold, whatever. So it's kind of good for farming early. That's what I did until I found out how hardcore the later minutes of Vampire Survivors are. And then this basically just is nothing. It does nothing later. The evolution is okay. You do have to take the what is it called? Pumarola, the red heart, the one that gives you regen. Soul Eater's it's Garlic plus basically. It still doesn't really do much. So Garlic, honestly, I could see putting this in basically worthless. But it has some merit. It has a little bit. It's not it's not totally like not run ruining or anything like that. It's whatever. So maybe I'll move it down once the list comes together. So that was Garlic. So next we have Santa Water. Santa Water. This, always choose this. This item is so good. This item is so good. At first, I was like, why would I want this? It just throws a fucking glass of water on the ground, and it doesn't even do anything. It does some damage, but it's random, so you can't really do anything about it, blah, 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 whatever. This thing is nice, man. This thing, I will say, early game, not nice. Early game, not nice at all. It scales with amount, so every amount you have, it will throw an additional flask onto the ground, and then what it does is it leaves a little puddle that does DOT. DOT is very good in this game. Having lingering puddle effects is also very good in this game. Earlier I said zones of safety are a very big deal when I was talking about the book, and the Santa Water just makes that all day long. And it only has a 0.5 second hitbox delay, which is very, very good. And that gets reduced through... It gets reduced through the book, obviously. But, okay, so anyway. Base damage is 10 damage, which is pretty nice for a 0.5 second. Every 0.5 seconds, you're doing 10 damage to something base. If they're standing on it, obviously. So when you level it up, when you level this item up, this is when it gets super nice. Super nice. It gets plus 30 base damage, so it does 40 damage every 0.5 seconds. 80% area, which means that the puddles are bigger, and then it gets plus 3 amount, so without any other bonuses, you'll have 4 of them flying around. And then it gets 1 second to the puddle duration as well. This item's super good. This item, even not evolved, is super good. Late game, this thing will save your life because you can just stand in the puddle and then see where the next one is going to fall, and then run over to that one, stand in that puddle, etc. It evolves into a very nice evolution with the Borra, the fancy Santa Water, the fancy blue Gatorade. You do have to take Attract Orb, which objectively doesn't really do that much for you, but if you start playing the game based on evolutions and you just take strong weapons, it just turns into you standing still. Like, you don't have to do much. So the Attract Orb is kind of nice in that you don't have to move as much to pick up, to get pickups. So, I might be a little biased. But anyway, Santa Water. That's going solidly in the OP. It's not quite in the AFK God mode tier, but this item's nice. This will probably get pushed down a little bit once the evolutions come on. But especially if you're doing a no skip, no banish run, this item, if you see this, you take this. It's very nice, very strong, very juicy. I think this is a base, so you get to start out with this. You don't have to unlock it. And then as we're going forward, up until we get to like the evolutions and stuff like that, I think you just have to unlock the character, but you'll get them very naturally throughout the game, just doing runs. So yes, this item is very good. And it also gets buffed with certain arcanas, which basically is just like a win more thing. Like Tragic Princess, I think, reduces cooldown when you're moving around, so there's raining Gatorade all over the place. It's very good, very nice item. All right, next up, Runetracer. This item I didn't really like early, but evolving this item, or even leveling this item up, kind of does it. Yes, you unlock it. Yeah, so you get it from Pasqualina. And you only have to survive 5 minutes with her, which is nice, and then it goes into your item pool. So, that being said, by base, it does 8 damage, and what it does is it shoots out like a slow-moving, like, diamond thing, and it moves in random directions. They have infinite pierce, which is very important, and they bounce off obstacles and edges of screens. Bounces are very nice. It has a 0.5 second hitbox delay, like the water, which is again very good. And as you level it up, it gets plus 20 base damage, so it does 28 damage, almost 30 damage. It gets more projectile speed, so they're flying around very fast, which is good for things like this, where it will just fly around for a set amount of time before disappearing. So the projectile speed means that it can cover more space. And then you get two amount, and then plus 1 second of duration. So you'll have 3 of these flying around without any amount upgrades. It's just a good item. They're flying around. You get 3 of them. doing damage, like a decent amount of damage, not great, but the fact that it just flies around, infinitely pierces. Again, this is similar to the cross where I was talking about, where it can create zones of safety for you, where they'll fly around. You can like follow the trail down through a group of enemies, and you can get yourself out of some sticky situations with it pretty nicely, and then it also evolves into No Future, which is a very strong item. Yeah, it's just good. You do have to take the armor, which take it or leave it for me. Eventually, you won't really be taking damage, hopefully, but the armor does mitigate some of that if you do take damage. So yes, Runetracer is pretty good. I am going to put this below Bible, but above the Axe. It's a good take. It's a good pickup. It's probably not going to carry you in the later minutes, but it's good. It's definitely good. Next up, we have the Lightning Ring. I love Lightning Ring. This thing is nice. It does 15 damage base, which doesn't really seem like a lot, but it's basically it summons lightning strikes, and it strikes random enemies, and then it creates a hitbox that deals more damage. So the lightning bolts don't actually do damage. It creates like a hitbox on the ground, almost kind of like Santa Water. It creates a hitbox on the ground that does damage. So this with a mount is very nice, obviously, because you just get more lightning bolts. Early game, it is kind of like early levels. It is kind of bad because it only shoots like one time every where is it? 4.5 seconds, which is kind of a long time. But as you get there, it starts with 2 lightning bolts. Sorry, so it's 2 lightning bolts every 4.5 seconds. But as you level it up, this is where it gets good. So you get plus 50 base damage as you level it up. So it does 65 damage on the hitbox that it lingers. It gets plus 300% area, so it gets a much bigger zone of damage as it hits the ground, and plus 4 amount, so you end up with 6 amount without any other amount upgrades. But the thing is, it evolves with Duplicator, which is probably, if not the best passive item to take ever. Like I take Duplicator every time I see it, unless I don't have room for it, and I'm trying to do a very specific build. But otherwise, if it's just a normal run, Duplicator, yeah, thank you very much. It just, as you get it, gives you one amount. Well, I'll talk about it in the passives. But anyway, it's fucking good. You want that. And then late game, the lightning bolt is very, very nice. It's shooting all the time, especially if you have cooldown. And then it turns into Thunder Loop for the evolution, which is basically just a better version of Lightning Ring. So I'm going to put Lightning in OP. I want to say OP. It's probably lower on the OP scale, same with Santa Water. But it is very strong. Next up, we have Pentagram, Poopagram, Stinkygram. I don't like this. It's not very good. It's the starting weapon of Christine, but because it just doesn't really do. You can't do much with it. You have to start with an additional level to get something actually good. So basically, what it does is it just eliminates all of the normal enemies on the screen. It eliminates everything on the screen, in fact, at first. So basically, it is. I mean, it's a cool, like idea. It's a cool idea, and it is very satisfying when the room gets wiped. But this thing, I don't like this at all. It doesn't delete bosses or mini bosses. It only deletes like the little boy minions. So it's whatever. Basically, it every 90 seconds it wipes the screen of everything. Experience gems, food, chicken, wall chicken, everything. It wipes the screen. Now, when you level it up, it does have a percentage chance to not wipe the screen of everything and only do enemies, but it's every 90 seconds. It's a minute and a half cooldown on this thing at base. Which, man, oh, sorry, it has a 10% chance to not destroy items, I guess, base, which is almost nothing. It does get influenced with luck, obviously, but, man, this thing's bad. So, okay, so at max level, it has a plus 55% chance not to erase pickup, so 65% chance. Still, whatever. Oh my god, I forgot it erases treasure chests too. Oh my god, it erases treasure chests. And then it has minus 30 seconds of cooldown, so it's 1 minute intervals. This thing sucks, man. This thing sucks. It does evolve into Gorgeous Moon, which is better, but I wouldn't say it's particularly good. And then you have to take the Crown, which is one of the worst pickups. This is the first basically worthless item. I'm gonna say weapon rather. It just doesn't do anything for a minute and a half, and then when it does do something, it deletes all of your experience and all of your treasure and all your money. It just deletes everything. So it delays your leveling up a little bit, and then otherwise it just does nothing and takes up a weapon slot, and it sucks. Evolving it makes it a little better, but man, thing's poo-poo. Thing's dookie. Poo-poo dookie. Don't take this unless you're a masochist or you're specifically going for the evolution, for the unlock. It's just mid. Okay, so we're going to do Peachone and Ebony Wings together because they are the first like duo sort of thing that comes together. So these are two birds. They are basically identical, I think, except Peachone. Okay, so what it does is you get a little circle that orbits around your character, and then on a cooldown, it shoots like little it shoots little things out, yeah, it's okay. Okay, so yes, Peachone orbits clockwise and Ebony Wings orbits counterclockwise. I'm just double checking. Yeah. These have a unite mechanic, which is basically like an evolution, but instead of having an item and a item and a passive, or a weapon and a passive, it's two weapons and they unite together. So these birds are okay. They do 10 base damage, which is fine. And then as they level up, I'll go through both separately just in case I'm missing something. I think there's a Arcana that affects each one differently. I think Twilight, no, it is both. Okay. Okay, so we'll go through Peachone first. Max level, it does plus 20 base damage, so it does 30 damage. 120% area, which is nice. Plus 7 amount, so you'll have 11. It shoots like little ribbons basically in the area. And then minus 0.5 seconds of cooldown. Ebony Wings is identical. It is literally they're the same exact thing, except you need them both to combine into Vandalier, which is the evolution. These are pretty good if you get Gemini, but otherwise they just don't do enough. Even if you get both of them and you have the two orbiting things, the thing is, it's only in like a circle around you, and they're not active all the time. You can kind of control. It's kind of like a Bible, right? It's like a worse Bible. You can kind of control where the areas are going to be when the weapon starts firing again. So you you can kind of control it like that, but it just doesn't really do a lot of damage. The effect is not that strong. You can evolve it. The Union into Vandalier is pretty good. Very level intensive, but again, like I said, you'll be getting those levels anyway if you're going late. But if you're trying a Gemini run, you probably want these. It just makes your life a little difficult getting through the mid game until these are fully leveled up and then combined into Vandalier. Even then, you're going to need other things to carry you because these will not do it. They are cute birds, and they are brothers or lovers, whatever. Lover brothers. I'm going to put them in okay for now because they do damage, just not a lot. They kind of, you know, the thing is you have to evolve, you have to level them all both up before they can unite. So that's 14 levels that you have to sink into these not really doing much. And yeah, they take up 2 slots until they unite. I will say the unite is a good thing because it gives you another weapon slot. But again, we're just going on these singular merits. Taking one doesn't really make the other one stronger in individual respects. Just that you'll have like mirrored rotating circles. So yeah, I don't know. They're just okay. Probably at the bottom of okay. Yes. All right. So now we're moving on to the double guns. Pugnala. I played a lot of Pugnala because these are quite nice. I'm just double checking, but I think that so we're dealing with Phiera del Tuphello, which is the red guns, and then 8 the Sparrow, which is the blue guns. So you have 2. You're like Bayonetta basically. I'm pretty sure they're identical. Okay, so we'll start with the red one. Oh, there is one difference, but I'll go over that after. Okay, so what they do is they shoot little pellets out at your diagonals. The red one shoots red pellets. The blue one shoots blue pellets. And they shoot out in each of your diagonals. They're very nice because they're very nice because they do a good amount of damage. The base damage is, or rather, the base damage is 5, but you'll see they do more damage eventually. But they shoot a lot of bullets. They shoot a lot of bullets. And again, you can create zones of safety for yourself by following your diagonal. You can even kind of like, if you move correctly, you can even kind of like double or even triple up your diagonal damage on a boss by moving and manipulating the pellet shots. But it's pretty good. So here we go. So we'll start with Phiera de Tuphello. At max level, does plus 10 base damage, so it's 15 base damage per pellet. 50% projectile speed, plus 2 amount, and it starts with 1 amount. But again, that's at every diagonal, so it's kind of different, kind of cheating. So you'll have 3 pellets firing at every diagonal, and then 6 pierce, which is very nice. And then just checking 8 the Sparrow, 10 damage, 50%. Yeah, so they're identical, basically. They're identical to each other. I will say, though, Arcanas affect each one slightly differently. Iron Blue will affect both of them. The bullets will basically bounce off. And then Phiera, the red one, gets affected by Heart of Fire, which makes the bullets blow up. And then Gemini also gives a counterpart to it. Actually, Gemini affects both of the guns. But Gemini creates a red muscle, which is just the gun again. And then Gemini for the blue one creates Twice Upon a Time. And then Jail of Crystal affects 8 the Sparrow, which basically freezes. So the red one explodes, the blue one freezes. Pretty self-explanatory, I guess you would say. Well, not self-evident, whatever. You know what the fuck I mean. So anyway, these are pretty good. The evolution is very strong too. You do take Tiramasu Gisu to evolve it. So it is like a union, but you do need a passive item for it. So it's kind of intensive in that way. But if you're playing Pugnala, you start with them, so you only need the one thing, and then they union into one gun, which is a pretty strong gun. It's the Firagi. Yeah, so these are pretty good. I'm gonna put these below. Actually, I'm gonna put these above Axe, but below Runetracer for now. They don't do a lot of damage, but they do clear out enemies very nicely. And the evolution is strong. It scales with a lot of Arcanas, which is good if you're doing Arcana runs. So yeah. Alright, next up, we've got the kitty cat. Gatti Amari. Gatti Amari, I don't... it's a cute cat. I don't know how much I like this, though, because... basically what it does is it summons cats. They just kind of walk around, and then they have a chance to attack enemies when they're close, and they get into like a big scuffle. If you walk over or near the cat, you will take damage. So that it's kind of like adding an enemy in, but it sort of helps you. And then if two cats come together, they get into a big battle, and it basically does AoE in this like scuffle, and whatever. They can also grab pickups. So if they grab the fire biscuit, I think it will start shooting fire out. If it grabs the health, I think it gives it to you. It just does different stuff. Basically, it can pick up stuff for you. Okay, so getting into it, it does 10 damage base. It has a pierce area. It basically does area effect, so it's whatever. The normal hitbox delay is 1 second for the scratch, so every second a cat can scratch it. But if they get into a big scuffle, a battle with the two cats together, it's a 0.03 second hitbox delay. So it is pretty strong if they do that. And again, it does scale with amount, which is good. Oh, here we go. It's showing the interactions. If it eats floor chicken, it permanently increases chance and base damage. If it eats the biscuit, the biscuit is called Njua Frita Tonto, but I just call it fire biscuit. It explodes the cat. If it gets a little clover and a gilded clover, it runs twice as fast. The Orologian, which I believe is the time clock, freezes the cat. Rosary and Vacuum don't really do anything. It just gets used by the person. So Luck also affects this. It increases the chance for it to attack enemies, the chance for them to attack, decreases the chance for it to attack the player, increases chances of them to start a scuffle, a battle with each other, and then it increases the chance of the pickups that aren't being beneficial to the cats, so the Rosary and the Vacuum, to be used by the player, because otherwise it would like delete the thing. And then again, the floor chicken, there's like I'm not gonna get into the math, but the floor chicken increases the base damage. So at max level, it gets 60% speed, 3 seconds to the duration, and 2 to the amount. So you'll have 3 cats running around at any given point in time with that. And then I think normally, how long do these things last? 5 seconds. So the cats last 5 seconds, but again, that gets buffed up with, so it goes up to 8 seconds at max rank. You need Stone Mask to evolve it into Vicious Hunger. So that being said, it's just not very good. Ironically, I'm going to be putting it in the kind of doggy tier, even though it's a cat. I don't really want to put it in the basically worthless tier because it does damage. The only problem is it does damage to you. The cats just aren't that useful. If you have like a lot of amount scaling, you can get like a ton of these guys running around and bumping into each other and creating scuffles, but even then it's kind of rare. It's just it's just not that good. Probably better than the wand, but and again, you can't really control the cats, but they can get pretty big. They do more damage. The evolution is okay. Whatever. Just the fact that it can damage you, it just adds another enemy that you have to dodge, which is just annoying. Yeah. Alright, so moving on to Song of Mana. Song of Mana is very nice. I like Song of Mana a lot. Basically what it does is it's the base weapon of Popea, which is one of my favored characters to play. She basically, it will launches like pulsing waves of sparkly magic at the top and bottom of you. So if you're playing on Tower of Gallo, it is a very strong item. If you're playing on the library, maybe not so strong. That being said, it's still pretty good. It does 10 damage base, and it does, obviously it's AoE, which is very strong, and then it's like a 2-second cooldown, something like that. 2-second cooldown with a 1-second hitbox delay, so it is possible to hit someone multiple times, obviously. It does scale with Arcanas pretty nicely. The Blood Astronomia I've been messing around with a little bit because I just unlocked it, and it's pretty nice. Okay, so moving on to the levels. At max rank, it does plus 30 base damage, which is a good buff. It does 40 total. 175% area. Now that one is key because normally it's just literally above the player, but with the area buff, it extends to the sides a bit. So if you get a nice area, if you get Candelabra, you can kind of make it a not quite full screen, but you can kind of get it going. So yeah, you can get this to be pretty wide, pretty nice. And then it adds 1.5 seconds to duration and 2.25 seconds to cooldown. So it'll be going off pretty regularly. Like I said, covering most of the screen. Not, I guess I would say half the screen. But importantly is it's centered on you, and it's just it's a very strong item or weapon throughout the game. I would say throughout the minutes. And it evolves into Mannajja, the evil pages, which is cool. You do need to use the Skull Maniac, the crazy skull, which basically the only thing it does is give you curse. So it's not ideal for going through deep runs, but it is good for leveling up because it gives you more amount of enemies to kill. But you can just banish the skull after you take it, and you only have to take 1 curse level unless you're going for like a curse centric sort of deal. Yeah, so it's a pretty fine item. It's quite good, I would say. I think I'm gonna put this in the top of good. It might go to OP, but we'll put this in the top of good for now. It doesn't do like a ton of damage, but it's still pretty nice. All right, so next up, we're doing Shadow Pinion, the drill to pierce the enemies. This thing, it's Concetta's base weapon. I don't know. I don't really like it. It does 10 base damage by default. So basically, what happens when you're moving around, it will spawn drills behind you, which then they'll move backwards, I guess, and they do damage to enemies walking over them. And then when you stop moving, or you can right click, which if you're on keyboard mouse, I would say this weapon is the only weapon that I prefer keyboard mouse on rather than just controller, because on controller you have to stop moving, and when you stop moving, all of the drills kind of they shoot off in the direction that you're holding, doing damage. But if you're on keyboard mouse, you can right click, and you don't have to stop moving. So that is nice in itself. So this weapon is pretty good. Like I said, 10 base damage. Hitbox delays 2 seconds, but it doesn't really matter because you are shooting them out constantly. You start with 1, but they spawn behind you all over the place. And then, so movement speed, it scales with movement speed, increases its spawn rate. And then I think area increases how far the drills travel, and projectile speed increases the acceleration of the drills. So it's kind of a complicated weapon. At max level, it does 25 damage, 0.75 seconds to the duration, and one additional like drill will spawn per normal spawn. So it's very good if you have amount modifiers. I don't really like this item that much, so I might be biased. I think it is good. I just don't like to use it because I play primarily on controller, and it's annoying to use, having to move and stop all the time. That being said, it's not impossible to use, it's just annoying to do. I'm a little biased and I'm quite lazy. This evolves into the Valkyrie Tuner, which is just a better version of it, and it uses fire, which is cooler. And it evolves with wings, which is a pretty solid middle ground item, or passive item. So I would say this is good. It's probably better than the axe, definitely. It's definitely better than the axe. But I don't think I'd put them over the quaddies just for that. I'm gonna try and speed up a little bit as I'm going, because I think I tend to ramble quite a lot, and I think we're already at an hour. So hopefully you guys like long form content of me fucking talking about random shit. All right, next up, Clockwork Lancet, or Clock Lancet, I guess it's technically called. So this thing sucks. This thing is ass. It doesn't do damage. So what it does is every once in a while it'll shoot out a beam, and that beam will freeze any enemies that it touches. So it does something. Obviously, everything does something. It has a 2-second cooldown. So every 2 seconds it will shoot a beam out, and it will do nothing basically. So at max level, it has a plus 4-second effect duration. So the stun will last for 6 seconds total, I think, and a 1-second cooldown. So on 1 second intervals, it will shoot a little beam out that will freeze them. So this doesn't do damage. It does basically nothing. Freeze is like a good win more mechanic, and if you're trying to fight death, freeze is basically needed. So Clock Lancet by itself is basically worthless. It evolves into Infinite Corridor, which is a fine evolution, but the thing is, it evolves with the Silver Ring and the Gold Ring, which is kind of a pain in the ass to do. It's not impossible. If you get a good run going, it's not hard to do. It's not even hard to do, probably, but it's just annoying, and you need everything to be max level. It's just irritating to do, it's irritating to get, and it's irritating to have this piece of shit in your inventory for the entire fucking time. It basically just does nothing. I even put it below the Pentagram, because at least sometimes Pentagram can get you out of a sticky situation if you're like too deep in a run and you don't have enough damage. But this literally does nothing. It does nothing at all. The only thing you would take this for is to evolve into Infinite Corridor if you're going for a kill death run. Other than that, it's worthless. It does nothing. Moving on to the Laurel. So I have mixed feelings about Laurel. This basically gives you like an invulnerability frame when you get hit. So the thing about Laurel is I loved this item early when I was first starting playing, because it let me go far deeper into runs than I probably should have been able to get. But that being said, it does, again, this is a weapon that does effectively, I guess it does do damage, but it basically doesn't do damage. It gives you a shield, protects you from damage, and makes you invulnerable. And then I think when it gets triggered, it does 10 damage or something like that. It does a low. Basically, you're not getting this for the weapon aspect. You're getting it for the defensive aspect, obviously. I will say the Astronomia Arcana scales very well with this. But you know, whatever. The only thing it benefits from also is cooldown bonuses, which gives you charges. So basically what happens is at base rank, it just blocks one hit and makes you invulnerable for like 5 seconds, which is a long time. It's pretty nice. You can get out of some clusterfucks with that. At max rank, it only has 7 levels, but at max rank, it has -2 seconds of cooldown, so your shield will come back 8 seconds, in 8 seconds instead of 10 seconds. You get an additional 0.8 seconds of invuln, and 2 additional charges, so you have 3 charges of this built up at most of the time. So this item or weapon is, again, this is something that you're going to want to get if you're going for a kill death run, because it will block 1 tick of his instant kill move, which is good. But again, the main thing that you're going to want for a kill death run is the freeze, which you need infinite corridor to do. And damage, obviously, because death has a fucking shitload of health. This won't help you with damage, obviously, but it is a good failsafe in case death manages to break out of his perma-stun and just teleports on you and hits you. So this is decent in that, but it just doesn't do damage. So I'm going to put it in kind of doggy tier, and late game, if you're not going for a kill death run, nothing's going to come close to you. Unless you really try hard to have something get close to you. So this, and even then, you'll have regen, you'll have lifesteal, you have all kinds of things to keep you alive that isn't an invuln that's taking up a weapon slot. If this was a passive slot, this would be incredible. But it's a weapon slot, whatever. It evolves into Crimson Shroud, which is a good item. It has like a area of effect, and it actually does some damage. But you need it with how do you say it? The fucking red left and right things. Metaglio left and right. Which again, same thing with Clockwork Lancet. It's kind of annoying to do, but not impossible. It's just annoying. And each of those have, again, like 9 levels or something like that you need to get through. So you're dealing with this for a while. But this is obviously way better than the Clockwork Lancet, because this actually has an effect that is useful. So next up, we are getting to Vento Sacro. So this is another whip. So this does 2 damage, but the thing is, it does like a multiple flurry of slashes in front of you. So movement speed increases its overall firing rate. So while you're moving, it will attack a lot. So it does 2 damage for each flurry, and it flurries a lot, but it goes up to 5 damage if you're nonstop walking around, which is pretty good considering how quickly it attacks. It rapid fire machine gun whip. Also, another nice thing is default, it can do critical hits, which will do 2 times damage. Has a 5% chance normally, but it's affected by luck. And so basically, I think another thing that this does is the more units that you walk, the more damage it will do. Based on the level. So like at max level, it does like 40 extra damage, which is it's pretty nice. Like it starts out very weak, but again, it's pretty nice. Slash Arcana is incredible with this, because by default it already can do critical hits, but the Slash Arcana gives it ×4 damage. So it's just very, very, very nice. So At max level, it will have 4 base damage, which doesn't sound like a lot. It goes up to 6, but again, we're taking into account the max damage bonus on moving, which it does eventually like 46 damage per slash, which is a lot, especially considering it is shooting a lot of shots. 60% area, which is definitely needed because it's a pretty tight little whip thing in front of you. It's like 2/3 of the size of the normal whip, maybe a little smaller, maybe half, roughly. And it's only in front of you also. And then it gets +3 amount, so it'll whip more times at max level. So by itself, it's okay. It's probably about as good as the whip, probably better, I would say, a little bit better than the whip because it's easier to control, and it eventually does more damage at max rank. The thing is, though, if you have Bloody Tear, whatever, which is the whip upgrade, and this maxed out, then it will union into a very strong weapon. So you do need a lot of pieces for this to work, but it's a union, so it will open up a weapon slot, like I said before, and it basically combines the whip and the Bloody Tear, and it makes a juicy weapon, especially if you have the Slash Arcana, like I've been saying before. So I think this is okay, about as good as the whip, but probably a little bit better. If you're going for one of these, you're probably going to get the other one, I would say, most of the time, because you want that evolution, the the fucking weird red eyeball. Just because it's that strong, it's pretty good. Especially with other evolutions. But yeah, I mean it's fine. It does a good amount of damage. Honestly, I might even put it. Nah, I'll put it here for now. It does a good amount of damage, especially if you're constantly moving. If you're not constantly moving, then whatever. It doesn't really work great for like an AFK thing. Alright, moving on to the bone. I don't use the bone very often, but I think it is I think it's surprisingly good. This is Mortaccio's base weapon, I think. You can also buy it. Yeah, there's a very small chance that this shows up in the pool. You can buy it from the merchant, though, most of the time. So, what this does is you throws a bone in a random direction. It travels in a straight line. It bounces off of enemies, walls, edges of the screen, and things like that. And if you have Twilight Requiem, it will explode at the end, which is just better. So it does 5 damage base. It's kind of small, and it lasts for 2 seconds. So you'll have a bone flying around for 2 seconds, bouncing off of stuff. Bounces are very strong in this game. Being able to just redirect into a crowd, like if you're shooting it into a crowd of enemies, it bounce off of all of them, and it's kind of like a pseudo AoE sort of thing, except it does more damage. So I mean, base, it's not that strong. But when you level it up, it gets pretty good. At max level, it has 60 plus 60 base damage, so doing 65 base damage. The area is bigger, so you get bigger boner. 40% base area, 100% base speed, and then you get +2 to the amount, so you'll have 3 bones flying around, and a 0.06 seconds bonus to the duration, how long the bones are out. So this is pretty nice. I struggle. It doesn't have any evolutions or any interactions, really. It just scales well. It does a good amount of damage. It bounces. They fly around, do damage. I think I'd put this in good, probably below the axe, maybe above the axe. Yeah, I'd put it above. I think I'll even put it above Shadow Pinion, because we're just taking into account the actual weapon itself, not the evolution, not the potential, I guess you would say. This is solid. A solid bone. It's nothing fancy, but it will get the job done, and it will probably carry you, or if you get it to max rank, it'll probably do you well, do you fine throughout the mid minutes of the run. You do definitely need supplement for this, though. You'll have a hard time soloing with this, but it's fine. All right, moving on. Again, I gotta pick up the pace a little bit. Hopefully you guys aren't too bored. So next is the Cherry Bomb, which is the starting weapon of Cavallo. Again, it's similar to the bone, where you have a very small chance of finding it, but on level up, but you can buy it from the merchant. So similar to the bone as well, this has no evolution or anything really interesting. So you throw bomb at the nearest enemy, it travels in a straight line, and it bounces off of enemies and the walls and edges of the screen. So it's kind of like bone. And depending on the level of the weapon and your luck stat, there's a chance for it to blow up. Then might an area both affect the bounces and the explosions. So basically, it's kind of like Bone Plus, except I think it does less bounce damage, but it has a chance to explode. So at base rank, it does 10 damage. It's out for 2 seconds, 3-second cooldown. Fine. At max rank, it has plus 10 base damage on the bounce, so 20 damage. 100% area, so the bombs get pretty big. 60% speed, plus 1 to the amount. So you'll have 2 of them flying around without any amount bonuses, and a 60% chance to explode, which is pretty good when you're throwing them out regularly. I think I'd put this slightly below bone just because of consistency, but these are both pretty close as far as power level goes. The bone will just always do what it's supposed to do. The only thing is it fires at a random enemy. Cherry bomb will bounce off of stuff and do damage, and then sometimes it will explode and do big damage. But this one fires at the closest enemy, so you have a little bit of control over this, but not much. So I would put these two very similar next to each other. Pretty solid. Not terrible, not great. Yeah. Next up is Carréllo. I love this thing. This thing is so stupid. So basically, it's the starting weapon of Robba. Again, same with these two. Small chance of getting it. You can buy it from the merchant. So it shoots a minecart. Like in the milk level, there's minecarts that if you hit them enough, they'll fly off and do damage. So this guy shoots out minecarts like that, basically. They'll travel horizontally, so it's pretty good on Library, pretty horrible on Tower of Gallo, and very strong on Tiny Bridge if you're doing a Tiny Bridge run. Very strong on Tiny Bridge. So it shoots it out in the direction that it's facing, and then it bounces off of obstacles, the side of the screen, and it runs over any enemies on the way. So the amount of bounces that each cart has is determined by the mount. Basically, it starts with 2 amount, and it will allow it to bounce once. And then more obviously lets it bounce a lot. So then it does an explosion when it breaks, which also does damage. Tragic Princess also reduces cooldown while moving, which is kind of nice, because if you have nice cooldown with this, you can have like 2, sometimes even 3 carts bouncing around at once. I've seen 4 with super nice cooldown. So it does 10 damage base, but again, it's an AoE, like coming back and forth, running over it. It has a 5.5 second cooldown base, which is kind of long, but that comes down pretty quickly. But where it really shines is when you level it up. At max rank, it does plus 90 base damage, so it does 100 base damage, which is super nice. Plus 40 area, which makes it bigger, obviously. 100% speed, which lets it travel faster. The speed is not really that big of a deal because it's based on the amount of bounces rather than the time that it is out. You know what I mean? And then it has a 0.9 second cooldown, bringing it just above 4 seconds or something like that. So this is pretty good. It's kind of hard to use unless you're on one Library or Tiny Bridge. But it's fun, it does damage, and it scales well with the passive items that you're going to want to get anyway. So similar, and again, it doesn't have an evolution or anything like that. But it does a lot of damage at max rank. So I think similar to these ones, I'm going to put this above Bone and Cherry Bomb by a little good margin. Not like these are basically neck and neck. Whoops. You're not OP. But the Carréllo is quite nice. It does a shitload of damage at max rank, and it's fun, and it is a very big AoE, and AoEs are very strong. All right, moving on. Next up is the Celestial Dusting. This is the base weapon of the good boy Osole. And again, same with these ones. Small chance of getting it, but you can unlock it or get it from the merchant for 1,000. So what this does is it shoots like little flowers that bounce off of walls and obstacles, but it's AoE, so it pierces enemies. And then when as it gets to the end of the duration, they like slow down, and then they shed petals coming off of it diagonally, dealing more damage. While you're moving, it fires flowers opposite to your walking direction, so it travels behind you. And then while you're standing still, it just kind of goes around you, but that doesn't move around. Movement speed increases its spawn rate. Cooldown doesn't do much, I guess. Projectile speed is ignored outside of its level ups, though, so it doesn't really scale with outside projectile speed. It also has a 0.3 second hitbox delay, similar to these guys up here. And it has at max, it can generate hearts eventually too. So base damage does 5 damage. The projectiles are very slow. It has a 6-second cooldown. Whatever. At max rank, it gets additional 5 damage, so it does 10 damage total for each little flower AoE thing. It gets 90% speed, which makes it a little better. +1 to amount and +1 second to duration, and then there's a chance to generate hearts when enemies are defeated with it, which is healing basically. I don't think this is a particularly strong item. It has no evolution. It's just whatever. Tiny bridge, it's okay because you can control, like you can run in one direction and then spread out all of the stuff behind you and then run back. Like you just run back and forth and clear out pretty easily, but I don't think it's really that good. It doesn't really do a lot of damage. Max rank is very weak. It can't really do that much. So unironically this time we're putting it in the kind of doggy tier because Osole is a good boy. But it just doesn't do very much. It's a cool item or weapon. I keep calling them items like a fool, like an idiot. But again, it just doesn't really. Actually, I think I might even put this below the Fire Wand. But they're pretty close. The Fire Wand just does damage randomly. This one you can control, but it doesn't really do damage, and then it sort of comes in and helps you with hearts, but even then it's whatever. It's not really an item or a weapon that you're looking for or even wanting at all. All right, next up we've got La Robba. I love this weapon. So again, same with the other ones that we were talking about. This is Amberjo's base weapon. Small chance of unlocking it. Buy it from the merchant for 1,000. No evolution. So this thing's cool. Basically what it does is it rains furniture down from the top of the screen, and then they bounce off of the enemies until the duration ends or they disappear off the screen. This does have a hitbox delay of 0.5 seconds, but you'll find that it doesn't really matter that much. Basically, I think they only put that in there so it can't just permanently damage something on the way down, and it can actually bounce around and do its job, basically. So yeah, you get tons of furniture like dressers and grand piano. So it is a little bit of randomness because they all have different shapes. I think grand piano is probably the best one because it's just the biggest. But it's pretty marginal, I would say. So it does at base rank 10 damage, lasts for 2 seconds, and has a 4.5 second cooldown. So it's not that bad. It's pretty standard, I would say. And if you're playing Amberjo, he starts out with a shitload of amount early, so you can really rake in the early levels with this. At max level, it gets plus 30 base damage, so it goes up to 40, which is respectable. 50% speed to them flying around, plus 4 to the amount, so you'll have 5 pieces of furniture flying around at any given point in time without any other amount bonuses, and another second to its duration. This is a pretty strong item. I like this item. The only problem is that obviously that it doesn't evolve, I guess, but even that you could be seen as not really a big deal. Just because of the sheer amount of space that at max level this will be taking up, especially if you have area bonuses. You just have giant fucking pieces of furniture covering your screen all the time. And yeah, so with that, I think this is good. I think this is probably the top of good for now. Just because it does more than these things, but again, I will say some of these get elevated because their evolutions are just better than this. But normally this right here, mwah, pretty fun item. It's funny, and it's actually quite nice. All right, so next up, Greatest Jubilee. You unlock this by defeating the end boss. This is okay. I don't really like this very much. For having to defeat the end boss, the weapon is kind of like a little bit of a joke. I wouldn't say it's a joke. It's still decent. So basically, it summons little fireworks that's in the top half of the screen. Again, this does not have an evolution or anything. It makes fireworks at the top, and then the particles get attracted to the player, and then the explosion hitbox is where it just originally was. So it explodes, and then the particles rain down and get attracted to wherever you are. It does like an instant AoE, and then basically I think once you get above 4 projectile, once you get above some amount of projectile, it will aim at the closest enemy or something like that. But normally it's at the top half of the screen. Once it gets to level 9, it gets like a bonus finisher thing. So we'll just get into it. It does 10 base damage normally. Everything else is pretty average. 3-second cooldown, 0.5-second hitbox delay. This does have a critical hit chance by default. It's like a 5% chance or something like that. And then it also has a 1% chance to spawn a light source. So like a torch that you can hit to get a coin or something, whatever. And obviously those are affected by luck. Apparently this is affected by slash, which I find funny. I guess it makes sense because it can crit. But okay, so at max rank, it has +4 amount. So it'll have 5 fireworks. And again, once you get to that threshold, it will start homing in on enemies rather than just being in the top half. Plus 20 base damage, bringing it to 30. 50% area, -1 second of cooldown, bringing it to 2 seconds, and then we'll have a finisher effect. So the finisher, basically, it just does like a light show at the bottom of the screen and does damage, I guess. It's okay. So greatest, where is it? Greatest Jubilee. This is okay. I think I'd put this below Peachone and Ebony Wings. Actually, yeah, I'll put them slightly above. I'll put it slightly above Ebony and Peachone, and the reason why is because it's easier to control this, and at max level, it does more. It just does more than these two, damage-wise and area-wise and whatever, all of that nonsense. So we're getting into a bit of a weird one. So we have Bracelet here. So Bracelet, basically, basically the whole thing about Bracelet is when you level it up, it evolves by itself. So it'll evolve into Bi-Bracelet, and then it will evolve into Tri-Bracelet. So I guess I'll do all of these at the same time, even though these are technically evolutions. I might as well, yeah. So basically, this goes up to the normal bracelet goes up to level 6, at which point it will then try to evolve into Bi-Bracelet. So at base rank, it just shoots out sparkles at a random enemy. So at base rank, it does 10 damage, kind of small. There's 3 little shots that it shoots out, and it pierces 1 enemy. So it's okay. It has 6 levels, so at the maximum level, it gets plus 20 base damage, going to 30, plus 2 pierce, plus 1 amount, so you'll have 4 shots, and then 10% area. So just this bracelet, I think, is kind of doggy, but definitely better, probably better than the Gato and better than the wand. Basically, it's just a straight up better wand that does a little bit more damage. Then when you get to the Bi-Bracelet, and another thing that is nice about this is, again, you don't need any passive item to evolve it. It just evolves on its own. So if when you get it, it'll just get better throughout the course of the run. All right, so going from Bi-Bracelet. So basically this, it starts out with it does the same thing. It starts out with its damage from the level 6 bracelet. So it does 30 damage. Lasts for 4. It has the same 4 amount. The cooldown's lower at 1.4 seconds, and it's pretty good. So then this also has 6 levels. At max level, it gets another +2 pierce, +2 amount, plus 20% to area, and minus 0.2 seconds of cooldown, and plus 0.2 seconds of duration. So this one, it is buffing the AoE function of the bracelet by a lot. It's giving it a lot of area, more amount, more pierce, and then cooldown and duration is just nice. So this one I would probably put above the fire thing, I guess. It's still not that great. But yeah, okay, we'll put it here. It's better, but it's still not that great. It just doesn't really do anything super well. But again, the whole point is to get to Tri-Bracelet, which we'll go over now. So Tri-Bracelet, again, 6 levels. And this one starts with all of the bonuses, basically, of the Bi-Bracelet at max rank. So then the Tri-Bracelet at another 6 levels at max rank gets another 3 amount, plus 20% area, more cooldown. It's like 0.4 seconds off of cooldown, plus 0.4 to duration, and 20 base damage, bringing it to 50. So this one is really where it kind of kicks off. Obviously, once you get it to the max rank. So you're looking at a total of like 18 levels, like 17 levels, I guess, that you have to pump into this thing. But again, levels aren't really a problem when you're going deep. So this is pretty good. It gets up to 50 damage for each thing, and it shoots like 9 little shots out that can pierce through all kinds of stuff. Has a lot of area. So this is pretty good. I would put this below the Carréllo, the cart, at its final form. Actually, yeah, I'd put this above these. It's kind of hard to do with this bracelet. Yeah, I think right about there works. I can go back and look at it, and we can have people yell at me if they don't like my placements, or if I'm missing something, or if I'm misrepresenting. Because again, I'm not a fucking genius or anything. I just played this game a lot and going off of my experience. Yeah. So Tri-Bracelet. That's the bracelet trio, I guess. Placed and nice. Okay, so next up isn't really kind of a weapon, but it is technically a weapon, is the Candybox. So basically what this does is when you pick it up, you just get to choose a base weapon, I think, right? Yeah, so a list of all the base weapons that are available to be picked, and you just choose one and get it. So for that, I mean, basically, it's hard to say, because again, you're just picking. But I think I would put this up here in OP, because it allows you to choose. Not only does it allow you to choose one of these strong ones and some of the other ones that we might be able to get into here, but it allows you to choose the exact thing that you want, or the exact thing that you need, which is obviously good. I think I'd put it in an OP. Yeah, it does. Like I said, it doesn't. It's not. It's technically a weapon, but it just lets you pick a different weapon. So, yeah. Basically, the rarity is multiplied by its luck. It's very rare normally. You can only get it one time, and it apparently can appear in big coin bags and in treasure chests also. So also for that, it's also kind of funny because when you're max level, treasure chests will spawn big coin bags, and then so once you're max level, it has a chance to spawn the Candybox and basically just give you a free weapon, which is kind of like a win more thing at that point if you are at max. But whatever. It's just a weird thing. Also, I neglected to put on the Super Candybox 2 Turbo on this tier list because I forgot. But basically, it's just the Candybox, but just way better. It lets you choose a list. It lets you choose from a list of all of the evolved weapons that are still available, except it doesn't include Infinite Corridor, Crimson Shroud, Ashes, and Soul Solution. So that I would put in the AFK God mode tier if it were here. I forgot to upload the image of it, but it's just like a brown version of this, the identical sprite, just brown. But just the fact that it lets you choose an evolved weapon, and some of the evolved weapons are super, 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 super nice. So that is pretty much that. So now we will get into some of the more brokey stuff, and a little bit of the secret character stuff before we get into the DLC. So starting with Victory Sword. Victory Sword is the starting weapon of Queen Sigma, Queen Gigma, Queen Bigma. You get it into your weapon pool by defeating 100,000 enemies with Queen Bigma. And oh man, this thing is nice. So basically, it does a series of slashes at the closest enemy, and then if you get hit, it will also retaliate and slash 6 times around the character as well. As you level this thing up, it just gets so fucking good. It is crazy. So base damage does 5 damage. It has it lasts for 3 seconds where it does slashes, and it has an almost 2-second cooldown. So just by that, it's pretty nice. You really farm early with this if you start out with it, and it just gets in fucking sane. So it has 12 levels, which is a lot. But at max level, it gets plus 35 base damage, bringing it to 40. Mind you, this is on every hit of the slash. Plus 60% area, which is just like a win more thing at that point. Plus 3 amount, which means that you can have 4 total slashes going on around you. Minus 0.75 seconds off of the cooldown. It can also critical once you get to level 8, and then we'll have a finisher. So, whew, man, this thing is good. At level 8, it starts critting, which has a 10% chance. And then reaching level 8 also, its finisher gets activated, meaning every 5 slashes become a finisher that slashes vertically up and does like a pillar, and does like a large area of effect. This thing I would put probably at the bottom of AFK God mode, because this thing, once you have your run going, it will just, you could solo, if you take the Arcana, you could solo the run with this alone, probably, pretty easily. Also mentioning that if you get Torana's Box, which is a solid deep run item, it doesn't evolve into Soul Solution, it gifts you Soul Solution. So you get to keep the Victory Sword, and then you get the most broken weapon in the game also on top of that. So if you are going for a deep run and you don't really want to think about it, get Victory Sword, get Torana's Box, turn your brain off. That's pretty much it. It's very strong. Like, it's probably at the bottom of AFK God mode, because you still have to have a couple other things if you want to just stand there. But this thing will keep you healthy, it'll keep you safe, If you have slash, it just gets broken. It's nice. It's very nice. Oh, that, yeah. So Queen Bigma, Queen Sigma, that is her weapon. All right, so on to Flames of Misspell. This is the starting weapon of Avatar Infernus, who is a secret character. I think Queen Sigma's technically a secret character. I don't know, but you get her from completing the compendium. So I don't know if she counts as a secret character or not. So Flames of Misspell. It also evolves with Toronto's box. So basically what it does is it spawns a burst of flame in the direction that the player is moving or has last moved. It does 10 base damage, and it kind of acts like a little flame burst, kind of like the Fire Biscuit, except not as buff. But once you level it up, it kind of turns into a permanent fire, a permanent Fire Biscuit thing. So at max level, it does plus 20 base damage, bringing it to 30, 100% area, 50% bonus to speed, and a minus 1.5 second to the cooldown, which brings it to 2.5 seconds. Sorry, I had to do math. This thing's pretty good. The main thing is it's very good on Infernus because he starts with an Arcana that buffs it as well. But that being said, by itself, this thing is not like broken or anything like that. I think I would even put it below the Tri-Bracelet. But these are pretty similar. The main difference is this is AoE and this only has Pierce, so it theoretically has an upper limit to how many enemies it could hit with each attack. All right, so now we're getting into the DLC base weapons, starting with Silver Wind. Silver Wind is Miang Moonspell's starting weapon, and this thing, I haven't used it a lot. Oh, sorry, here it is. It's this sparkly wand. I haven't used it a lot, because I've been using another character that is in the DLC, and their weapon. But from what I've used, it seems fine. But you will need other stuff again to carry you. I mean, every weapon is difficult to solo with, but some of them obviously are better than others. So this basically what it does is it shoots like an energy orb that hovers around the character in like an elliptical sort of pattern, and it leaves colored trails behind it. There's like blue, green, yellow, and something else maybe. So the orbs follow the movement of the character. If you get area, it will affect how far away the orbs are and also the size of the orbs. It has a 0.5 second hitbox delay, like most things, and basically, but each orb has its own hitbox thing. So you can hit you can hit the same enemy with two orbs, and then they'll have a separate hitbox delay. I think is how that works. So then it also has a 5% chance to generate little hearts that heal 1 health upon killing an enemy. Obviously, luck will increase this. But it's just like a little bonus. It does 10 damage base. It's pretty slow. You get 2 of them normally. They last for 2.25 seconds, and they have a 3-second cooldown. Pretty standard, I would say. At max level, it does plus 20 base damage, bringing it to 30. 20% additional projectile speed, plus 0.5 seconds to duration, which brings it to like almost 3 seconds, I guess. Whatever. And then you get 6 amounts, so you'll have 8 of these flying around you, which is the main thing. And then you also get minus 0.3 seconds to interval, the hitbox interval, which is not that big of a deal, I think, but it might be. It just is better for like lingering on a boss, I guess, or something like that. So yeah, I would say all things considered, this is okay. I would put this above the whips, which makes sense because again, it's the starting weapon of the like main first character of the DLC. Like the whip is the starting weapon of the first character in the game. But yeah, it's fine. It's not standout. It evolves into Festive Winds with the Red Heart Pumarola, which we'll get into later. It is obviously just better, as it's an evolution most of the time. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Moving on to 4 Seasons. This is the base weapon of Godai. No, sorry, of Mannajja, not Godai. Godai Shuffle is the evolution. Mannajja is the guy. He floats around on his carpet or whatever. This thing I don't really. Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. This thing I don't really like that much. Basically, it makes 2 little beads that orbit you, like diagonally on either side, and then each pair forms like a rectangle around the character, and then they cause 4 explosions that blow up, and it's the 4 Seasons. So there's like flowers with green leaves, and then there's orange leaves for like autumn, and then there's snowflakes, or no, there's flowers, and then there's green leaves, orange leaves, and then snowflakes. And then they put the kanji for each season as well. So it's a cool like effect that it has. But it doesn't really seem to do that much. Area, if you have area, it will cause the explosion to be bigger. And then the level up makes them get further apart. So by base, it does 5 damage, which is not that much, but okay. It has a 1-second duration for each like season, I think, and a 4-second cooldown. Yeah, at max rank, it has plus 400% area, which is cool, and it also spreads them apart. Plus 1 second to cooldown, which is not good, right? So yeah, so it gains cooldown as it levels up, which is I don't know why. It might have something to do with the like fact that it has the 4 like triggers or something like that, but and then minus 0.4 seconds to the hitbox interval, I think, or no, the projectile interval. So all things considered, this thing is pretty mid. You need Spinach and Candelabrador to evolve it to Godai Shuffle. But that being said, Spinach and Candelabrador are both quite good passives. This thing, though, I don't really like it very much. I'm going to put it at the top of kind of doggy. Because as a base weapon, it just is, despite its consistency, it's inconsistent, like, damage. I don't know if you are understanding my inane ramblings. But it has a consistent, like, 4-thing trigger. But despite that, it still lets enemies through. It's hard to I mean, you can play around it, but it's harder than a normal weapon to get it done. That being said, it's kind of mid. Moving on to Summon Knight. So this weapon, this is the base weapon of Sciuto Moonspell. So this thing's nice. This is the weapon this is the character of the DLC that I've been using the most, probably, because Summon Knight is very good. Basically what it does is it summons like claws from the top of the screen and goes all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and leaves like a lingering damaging zone of dark clouds. Or sorry, not all the way to the bottom, but area extends how far down it reaches. But it's basically all the way down. So at base rank, you get 1 of these. So normally, at base rank, it is not very good. It's basically like a worse the Amana page, the piece of paper. It has a 0.45 second hitbox delay, which is slightly better than average, I think. And it does at base damage 10 damage, and it does AoE, which is pretty good. Has a 3-second cooldown also, which is pretty nice. At max rank, it does plus 10 base damage, so 20 total, which isn't really that much, but when we get into the later runs, it starts to become very strong. 0.05 seconds to the duration of the lingering smoke cloud, and plus 3 amount. So without any other duplications or anything like that, you'll have 4 of these claws coming down. And with area, these things scale very nicely with area, because it not only extends down to the bottom of the screen, but it also widens them. So you can pretty easily start to get full screen damaging zones with these. And again, it's similar to Santa Water, where you have these little zones of safety that you can go to that enemies won't be able to touch you in because of the AoE and the lingering cloud smoke thing. Another thing is it evolves with Duplicator, which again, like I said before, with the Lightning Ring, is just a auto pick passive. And with the Duplicator, it would have 6 amount base before it evolves. It evolves into Echo Knight, which is just a better version of this. But it's very, very nice. I would say it's up there with the I think this is called the Song of Amana, something like that. I literally did it already, but it's been a little while. And my brain is no work. But anyway, this is up there. It's not quite OP, but it is definitely up there. You can get a lot of area denial with this, and like I said, it evolves with Duplicator, which you want anyway. It's just that good. All right, moving on to Mirage Robe. Mirage Robe. It's the starting weapon of the Baba Ona. So it's kind of a weird thing. It evolves with Attract Orb, which is whatever, and it evolves into Jodore. Is that right? I don't know. It turns into Blood Vial. So basically what it does is it makes like a mirage around the character, which looks like an after image of the character. So like she like dances around when you're moving, and then it will make a freeze frame of her in that spot, and then it freezes the enemies and does like a little damage when it explodes. So the area increases the size of the explosion of the thing, and duration will add to the time of the enemy's frozen and how long the mirages will last. And then if you have more luck, the mirage will be more likely to explode. It does 10 base damage by default, 2-second duration, so that's how long the mirage will last, 3-second cooldown, and you have 1 amount, but it will do like a little freeze frame every so often, like I think like 5 or 6 of them or something like that. I don't exactly remember. I don't use this weapon very often because I don't like it other than when I evolved it to get the achievement. So at max rank, it has plus 40 base damage, which is a respectable 50, plus 4 seconds to the effect duration, and a 60% chance to explode. So by default, this thing sucks. This thing is probably worse than Garlic, I think. The Mirage like is supposed to. It's just very difficult to use because it all comes behind you. And it does freeze enemies, which is nice. It has a chance to explode. It does it does okay damage without exploding. It's just like it doesn't do like very much. It's hard to use. Doesn't do enough for how hard it is to use, and the evolution is not much better. And you have to get Attract Orb, which again on paper is basically useless. So moving on to Mille Bolle Blu, which I think is a reference to a name or something like that. Mille Bolle Blu. It's fun to say. So it is the starting weapon of the Gavet Oni, the little Kappa Man. And it's similar to like the Bone and the Cherry Bomb and stuff, where once you unlock it, there's a small chance of getting it, and then you can buy it from the merchant for 1,000, and it has no evolution. Oh wait, sorry, it does have an evolution. I'm a liar. That's the one difference. So basically what this does is it shoots out little bubbles that are shoots at the closest enemy, and then it lingers on the ground. So this is okay. It's pretty good on Tiny Bridge because you can like barricade yourself off. But other than that, it's okay. I mean, it does 5 base damage. It shoots out little bubbles, and they all kind of linger on the ground. It shoots 4 of them by default. That lasts for a little over a second, and it has like a 2.5 second cooldown or something like that, and a 0.5 hitbox delay. So that is kind of annoying for an AoE based weapon like this, but it's not the end of the world. At max level, it does an additional 7.5 base damage for some reason. So it brings it to like 12.5, 13 damage. Gets 30% more area, plus 4 to the amount, so you'll get 8 bubbles floating around, and a minus 0.6 seconds off of the cooldown. So by default, this thing is okay. It's good on Tiny Bridge. Other than that, it's kind of hard to use. The range is not very large, but you can, again, you can kind of like bushwhack drive-by groups with this, like the ghosts or the bats. So I want to put this at the bottom of okay. Maybe I should put this in the kind of doggy tier. Yeah, it's there's nothing too special about it. It evolves with Spellbinder, which is a nice item to evolve with, the one that you'd want. And we'll talk about the evolution when we get to it here. So here is the last, I guess, non-secret DLC character starting weapon, Knight Sword. Oh wait, no, sorry, I lied. This is the starting weapon of Megalocioto. You get this from the Mount Moonspell map at the top, and when you get it, you get it there. So this thing is cool. I like this this item a lot. So it's kind of like a mini Victory Sword, where it will create like a series of slashes around at enemies, and then it will retaliate and do 6 slashes around the enemy like Victory Sword. It has a very small chance, like a 1% chance or something, to generate little hearts that heal damage, and then it's affected by luck, obviously. So at base, it does 5 damage, but again, it's doing multiple slashes. You get 2 of them around you, and it's a 2 second cooldown, a little more, I think, than a 2 second cooldown. But when you level it up is when it gets kind of juicy, because when you level it up, it gets plus 35 base damage, so it goes up to 40, 60% area, and plus 3 amount. So you'll have 5 of these slashes all around you. So it's kind of like a little bit worse Victory Sword. So for that, I think I'm going to put this at the top of OP. The thing about Victory Sword is it scales with levels way better. It's just like a better version in all respects. Actually, you can select this with gift box. So I'll put this here. I think that's a good spot. Yeah, I think that's good. This is a good weapon. The evolution could be a little bit hard to use if you don't have a lot of healing. It evolves with Stone Mask, which is kind of mid, but again, it's like a win more thing where once your run is set, you can just focus on getting gold for the next run. And Stone Mask kind of helps with that, but other than that, it doesn't really do anything. And then it evolves into Muramasa, which is a pretty good weapon, but again, kind of hard to use. So we'll be getting into that shortly. I might move this down because Santa Water is just so good, but I think this is fine for now. I think right there is good. Now we'll go to 108 Bocce. 108 Bocce. So this is a bit of a weird one. This is still DLC. This is a starting weapon of the McCoy Oni, which is it's a secret character, I think, for the DLC. It's the big badger guy, I think, I want to say. So basically what it does is it puts a like blanket aura around you, and it does damage to every enemy inside of it, and then it has 8 beads that fly around your character. So you can use cooldown to to bring. So it has this like this thing, these beads that are like flying around, but I think it only is the aura around the character that is the thing doing damage. I think. So this has a couple different effects which are cool. So cooldown, first off, acts as hitbox delay for this. So basically, it has what's the hitbox delay on this? Oh, it's 1.3 seconds, I guess. So that it acts as hitbox delay. So it lets you build cooldown to bring the hitbox delay down, sort of, I think. But it's 1.3 seconds normally. Does 12 damage every 1.3 seconds, which is pretty solid at base rank. Especially if you're starting out with it and all the enemies have like 1 health anyway. And then the other cool thing is that the difference between luck and your curse will boost the damage of this weapon. So each 1% difference between your luck and your curse will give a 1% damage multiplier to the base damage, maximum being like times 11 or something like that, with 1,000% difference being like you have 500% luck and minus 500% curse, or vice versa. And at max rank, it does plus 28 damage, so it brings it to 40 base damage, which is very solid, and it takes 0.3 seconds off the cooldown, which again acts as the hitbox delay. So 1 second by base, you can add on to that with other cooldown reducing items, and you kind of got yourself a better and much juicier garlic. Other than that, this thing is not super impressive. It doesn't evolve or really do anything else. But it does do damage, which is nice. It can do a lot of damage, like 40 times 11 at max, but usually you'll probably get to around 5, so a pretty good amount of damage if you're trying for a curse luck opposite run, but you kind of have to go out of your way to make it do that much damage. So for now, I'll put this probably above the bubble, Now I'll put this above Greatest Jubilation, just slightly. Just because, like I said, it has that potential. It doesn't have any evolutions or anything like that. Maybe I should put this above. I'll put this above Knife. It doesn't have an evolution, but again, if you want to bring it to late game and have it do work, you have to bring in the setup basically in order for it to do the work. All right, so that is it for the base. Like the base weapons. So we're getting into evolutions now. So these are naturally going to be a bit better than the other weapons, but it is technically possible that some are worse. So the first one is Bloody Tear, or Bloody Tear, whichever one you want to call it. So this is the evolution of Whip and Hollow Heart, the one that gives you max health. So this thing is nice, and we don't have to talk about levels most of the time because it doesn't level up. So this thing is cool. It's similar to the Whip. It creates horizontal slashes, and the slashes get bigger when it's evolved. Amount affects the number of slashes, obviously, and it by default can do critical hits with a 10% chance to occur. And then, if a enemy was damaged by a critical hit, you heal 8 points of health, which is cool. It does have a 1 second delay before it can be triggered again, but if you're going for like a crit run, this thing is pretty nice because this will keep you healthy, wealthy, and wise. Just smacking the shit out of everybody and healing. This also levels with the Sarabandal of Healing Arcana, and Slash obviously makes it work. Slash Arcana, it basically makes all of these weapons. It brings them to a whole next level. So it does 40 base damage. It has a pretty good area. It has a little over 1 second cooldown, I think. Like 1.35, yeah, okay. And again, 10% chance to crit with a ×2 multiplier. That's modified by luck. So this thing is good. I would say it's not like the best evolution, but again, you use this to evolve into the Tuphello with the Vento Sacro, sorry. But yeah, this is just a better whip. I kind of want to put it in good because it can crit. I'm going to put it at the bottom of good. Probably not the bottom of good. Honestly, I'm going to put the axe at the top of okay now, I think is what I'm going to do. And then put the whip, bloody tear here-ish. Yeah, I think it's a little bit worse than Shadow Pinion, probably. But it's still good. And again, it has another level that you can bring it to. So next is the Holy Wand Evolution. Back to business. So Magic Wand and Empty Tome. That's what the red book, what I've been calling the red book. This thing's okay. So basically, it's similar to the Magic Wand. It shoots blue magic missiles that are fired at the closest enemy. And then it has half the cooldown and double the projectile speed. And then it gets more, obviously, from a mount that gets fired in a sequence. Still, it can't pass through walls or anything like that. I mean, this thing is basically just the Magic Wand Plus. So I mean, it's a little bit better than the Fire Wand, I think, just because of the consistent damage that you can put out. But it's still just not that good. It does 30 damage with every shot. It has by default 4 amount. The cooldown is pretty low. It's at 0.5 seconds, which is nice. But it's just not really an evolution that you want to go for. I mean, it's obviously much better than normal Magic Wand, but it's still kind of dookie. Still kind of poopy. Yeah, I mean, it's not a very interesting weapon, but yeah. All right, so next we'll go with Thousand Edge. Thousand Edge, this is the evolution of the knife and the bracer. It basically turns it into a never-ending stream of like knife shoots that get shot out, fired in the direction that you're moving in, the direction you're facing, or the direction that you last moved. What is it? It still can't pass through walls or anything like that. But it's pretty good. So this knife is really fucking good with the Slash Arcana and amazing with the Iron Blue Will. If you get both, you're feeling amazing. This thing will carry you along with a couple of the other Slash Arcana. Sorry. And if you get those Arcanas, you're feeling good. Otherwise, it's pretty mediocre for an evolution. It does like 17 damage or something like that, like 16 damage. I think it does scale. Like if you get more amount, it will just make the projectile size bigger. It acts basically like like the Fire Biscuit. It shoots very quickly though, obviously. It has almost no cooldown, very, very low cooldown, and no, it's not an AoE thing, so there isn't a hitbox interval, so you can just kind of cut people down with this. The Slash Arcana is so good because it lets it deal ×6 crit damage, which is so fucking much damage, and with Iron Blue Will, all the knives will bounce up to 3 times, which just makes it absurd for clearing out high health, high density enemy packs. So for that, this thing is pretty good, but by itself, I'm going to put this in good probably. I think it's a little bit worse than Bible probably, but a little bit better than Runetracer by default, just because it's kind of hard to, it doesn't really keep you safe. It does give you that zone of safety where if you're running, you can run straight at stuff and it will clear out most of the enemies, but it doesn't do enough real damage to clear out like a boss, so you can't just turn your brain off and run straight forever. But yeah, it's pretty good. It does a good amount of damage. All right, next is Death Spiral. Death Spiral is the evolution of Axe and the Candelabrador. Both of which are pretty good. The Axe, as you can see, is at the top of okay. I just demoted it. But the Candelabrador is very nice. Area is always good to have. So what this does is it shoots out, I think, 9 spinning scythe attacks that shoot out from around you. Every one has a shitload of pierce, I think, and they're huge. They have a little bit slower projectile speed, but it's not that really big of a deal. Also, it scales with the area, the character's area, but it's multiplied by like 1.2, which is a little bit less than the axe, but it's based on the its base area is increased, and it gives a total multiplier of like 1.44 for the area, I think, something like that. But anyway, so this is affected by Slash and Iron Blue Will, the same as the 1000 Edge, which makes it crazy fucking good. So this thing does like 60 base damage. It has a pretty good area. It has indefinite duration, which basically just means it will just continuously shoot them out. It has 1000 pierce, which basically means that it will pierce 1000 enemies before the projectile breaks. The only thing is that it will, when it goes off screen, the projectile is gone. So that's why the bounce is really fucking good, because 3 bounces gives it 3 times the chance of staying on the screen and doing more damage. It also has a crit multiplier by default, which is good. And then Slash will multiply that again. Yeah, so this is pretty good. I think this is about the same, probably better than, I mean, I guess it's technically better than Bible, because it does basically the same thing, except a little bit better. It does more damage, I guess. It doesn't really orbit, but it does more damage. So I would say it's around there, probably, as far as I am concerned. All right, next up, we've got Heaven's Sword. This is the evolution of Cross and the Clover. This one, I don't really know about this. Clover is kind of mid to take. Cross is already kind of mid to take. So basically what it does, it throws a sword at the closest enemy, and then it starts spinning around and then boomerangs into the opposite direction. So it does way more damage, which is nice. It does like 77 base plus like it does like some amount, like 40 for the spin. It has a lot of knockback, and it can push. But it does an amount. It's only 1 basically. You're going down. So you're not having as many crosses going around. If you can get a mount with this, it can get kind of good. But the thing is, it's like going back to the original Cross, where it's kind of hard to control, and you only have 1, so there's a lot less room for error. I will say it does a shitload more damage. It does like 2.5 damage crit chance by default on a 10% chance. Scales with Slash. It does bouncing with Waltz of Pearls, which is basically the magic version of Iron Blue Will, I think, where it will have bounces there. It does a lot of pushback and damage, but this thing is so hard to use, especially if you don't really have any other amount. It's just 1. It has, what's the cooldown? 3.3 seconds, which is kind of a long time for this to be on screen for, what? Like, a few seconds. Slash, if it does hit something, it will kill it probably. It will do a lot of damage if it's a boss, or kill it if it's a minion. But then it's gone, and it's like, cool, I guess. So I'm going to actually put this probably below the birds, but above, I don't know. I'm going to put this at the bottom of okay for now, because it's fine, but like it gets worse than the Cross almost. Like, it does more damage. Whoops. It does more damage, but you only get 1. And it takes so long, and the cooldown is increased too, by like a whole second or something when it evolves. It kind of gets worse, in my opinion. That being said, if you do have Arcanas to make it good, and if you have a mount, it can shoot up a bit in how good it is. Because if you get 3 or 4 of these flying around, it's going to do a shitload of damage, especially if you have Slash, especially if you have Waltz of Pearls. But by itself, it's just worse than the thing it evolves out of, which is kind of sad, in my opinion. All right, Unholy Vespers. I like this. This item, along with the Santa Water, carried me through a lot of my gameplay. It's the evolution of King Bible and Spellbinder. So again, 2 great items that you're going to want. anyway, and then it evolves into this, which is just super, super good. So basically it spawns a ring of symbols around them that basically spins in a direction and deals any damage to any enemy that it touches. It has a lot of knockback, which will save your life. The knockback is nice on this thing. And then for however much amount you have, symbols will be added to the thing, similar to Bible, basically. So basically it comes out and it's almost like a full circle, but when you add more amount, it basically becomes a tight circle that you can't really get into. Projectile speed also affects how fast they rotate, and then duration affects how long they rotate before cooling down, and area basically gives you a bigger circle to work with, which could be good or bad. But it also increases the size of the symbols, which is, again, just better. So this thing's nice. It does have a 1.7 second hitbox delay, which is kind of annoying, but it kind of deals with that by itself by having like a 4 knockback value, which means it will just send enemies flying. So it kind of deals with that by itself. If you have Twilight Requiem, it's kind of like a win more Arcana for this, which will make the symbols explode when they expire. So anyway, it does 30 damage. It has a pretty good area. It's like 1.75 or something like that. Decent speed. Duration of each symbol is 3 seconds. Cooldown's 3 seconds as well. But once you get this to late game, it's basically just a permanent spinning circle around you. Area of safety zone, knocking all these big guys away if you don't have enough damage to deal with them right away. It's very, very, very difficult for enemies, even late game, even in later minutes, like 20 minutes, to actually get into your circle, especially if you have Santa Water or other AoE things that you can stand on. So for this, I'm going to put this in the AFK God mode section. I think this is actually a little bit better than the slash, because with this you can kind of just sit around. You don't even have to move at all. With like one or two other things, you can make it just like you can use this to farm gold pretty easily on an infinite run. Just leave it going for several hours if you want, if you really want to. I've done that once or twice. I just came back to it and ended the run, and you get so much money. So yes, this is a nice one. This is very, very good. It doesn't really do that much damage, but it shreds people like crazy. Alright, we're coming to the end of it here. Not really, but we've gotten most of them on there, I would say. Hellfire. Hellfire is the evolution of the Fire Wand and the Spinach. Spinach is good, Fire Wand not so good. So this thing, it shoots like meteors that move pretty slowly, and it pierces all the enemies. It has a shitload of base damage, pretty slow projectile speed. The amount gets reduced down as well. Yeah, it's just it's whatever. The hitbox interval is also increased by a good amount too. So if you have the Heart of Fire, it will explode, while the Pearls will bounce. So this thing is okay. It's obviously better than the normal Fire Wand in most aspects. It does 100 base damage, which is a lot. Excuse me. It's very slow, and you only get 2 of them by default, which is 1 less than the Fire Wand's normal shot. But it goes to an area of effect pierce, has a 3-second cooldown, and then a bit more of the projectile interval. So this thing, I don't like it very much. It does a lot of damage. It still shoots at a random enemy. It's still pretty hard to use. And I mean, again, since it does a lot of damage, it can generate safety zones and escape routes if you decide to follow the meteor. But again, it might not be the direction you want to be going. The way that it shoots. So I'm going to put this below Heavenly Sword, I think. Nah, it's probably better than Heavenly Sword. I'm going to put it about above the Heavenly Sword, because it ends up doing more damage anyway. Yeah, it's more damage, more consistent than the Heavenly Sword, but whatever. If you, like I said, if you get Arcana's, Heavenly Sword gets way fucking better. this doesn't really get that much better with Arcanas and amount. Moving on, we have Soul Eater. This is the evolution of the Truck Nuts and the Red Heart, the Pumarola. So basically what this does is it gives you like a black aura that does like a pulsing thing that does damage to everything inside of it. It has a big increase in area over Garlic and a decent increase in base damage. So for this, you can use cooldown for the hitbox delay. And then they also have knockback. So this has knockback now, which is nice. So whereas the Garlic basically just did damage, and then when the enemy didn't die, it just came and killed you. This one, at least, the Soul Eater will knock them back a bit, and give you a bit more survivability. So another thing is this. This does more damage the more health that you have healed. So I think it gains 1 damage for every 60 health points healed that gets capped at a plus 60 damage per 3,600 health points healed or something like that. It's just a flat increase. Does not benefit from might though, which is kind of annoying. It doesn't really matter where the healing comes from. It's just as long as you healed during, I think it's after you get it. It also has a chance to generate little hearts itself when it kills an enemy, which helps with the health damage cap thing. So yeah, it does 20 damage, which is a little bit more than the Garlic at max rank. But other than that, it's about the same. It has a 1 second cooldown, which is the hitbox delay, which can be reduced further. Other than that, it's not really... I mean, it does do some good stuff with Arcana. But other than that, this thing is not that good. I'm going to put it at the top of kind of doggy for now. Just because it has a potential to get to like 80 damage at a very low cooldown hitbox interval. But you have to put in a lot of work for it, and you have to deal with the shitty, annoying Truck Nuts and the not super useful Red Heart Pumarola. And then what you get out of it is just like a slightly better Garlic that ramps up in its damage if you heal a lot. So if you have Arcanas and or if you have a healing based run, then it could be good, but most of the time it's just a mediocre evolution that is not particularly good. All right, moving on. Borra, the fancy cool blue Gatorade. This thing is nice, obviously. It's the evolution of Santa Water and Attract Orb. The main downside is the fact that you have to pick up Attract Orb for this, but even then, like I was saying before, you don't really care that much when you're doing so much damage with all your other weapons. Attract Orb is kind of nice because it means that you don't have to move as much, which is cool. So, again, same with Holy Water. It rains little bottles down that break into impact, and then it leaves bigger puddles of water from the Santa Water thing. And then the pools of water then creep toward the player. And it increases, the size increases as they travel. So they'll splash down and then they'll come toward you slowly, and then the size will increase. So this thing is nice. This thing is just super nice. With more projectile speed and movement speed, the puddles move and grow faster. There's still a cap, I believe, but they both affect the puddles. Yeah, it's great. So this, again, it's the poster child for zones of safety. It'll splash down these big puddles on the ground, and then not only will they be there doing damage, but they'll also come closer to you to make it easier for you to hang out in those puddles of safety. So they do 40 damage, but again, this is an AoE with a 0.3 second projectile interval. A 0.5 second hitbox delay is what it does. Have a 0.3 second projectile interval, but I was thinking about the hitbox delay. So it's doing 40 damage every, or I guess it's doing 80 damage every second in a giant area of effect, and in a lot of them. So it starts out with a base 4 amount, which is good already. With more amount, it scales, they all come together, and if you have a lot of amount and a lot of area, this thing will just create a giant permanent circle of death on the screen. And again, I think each puddle has its own hitbox delay. I might be wrong about that. You can yell at me, but I think that each puddle has its own thing. So I'm putting this in the AFK God mode above the Bible, because it just does more damage, has way more area. You can almost full screen with this. You can just sit there and let the puddles come to you. You don't have to move. Although if you do move, with Arcanas like Tragic Princess, it will shoot faster. So you can like press down your W key and walk into a wall or something like that, and you know, whatever. So this, I'm putting in AFK God mode at the top for now. It's just very, very, very strong evolution. Like I said, the only downside, and I sometimes don't even think about this as a downside, is that you have to take Attract Orb, which on paper does nothing. But if you're going for a farm run, Attract Orb is looking kind of good because you don't have to move around. You can just play Minecraft in your other monitor, whatever. So this thing is very nice, yes. And it shreds enemies and bosses alike. I would say it's not particularly good for fighting death, but what do you want? It can't do everything, I guess. Alright, moving on to No Future. This is the evolution of Runetracer and Armor. I think Armor is good. I just don't take it very often because I don't find myself getting hit very often, because you just get so many good evolutions. You don't really need to worry about that. But I think Armor is good. I just don't take it. But anyway, Runetracer, obviously, very good. So what it does is it turns the Runetracer into like a ricocheting laser that shoots in random directions, has infinite pierce like Runetracer, bounces off the edge and screens and everything like that like Runetracer. And then every bounce that it bounces, it does an explosion. And then if you get hit by an enemy, it also does an explosion. It's very nice. It has a higher speed and amount than Runetracer. There's no interval also, which is very, very nice. And then cooldown helps its weapon duration. And then it's kind of weird. The cooldown extends the duration like that. And then the armor also increases retaliatory explosion damage, yada, 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 whatever. It has a 0.5 second hitbox delay, similar to Runetracer, I'm pretty sure. This is very strong with Jail of Crystal. This is one of the items that I would go for if I was trying to kill death at the end of the 30 minutes, because the Jail of Crystal will give the lasers a chance to freeze death, along with Infinite Corridor and all that other stuff. It's just more chance for him to be permanently frozen and not killing your ass instantly. So this does 30 damage base. It's very fast at 2.8. It goes down to 1 amount, but you can pretty easily fix that. And it has a 1 second cooldown, which is very, very nice. No projectile interval, which again is very, very nice. And it does have a little bit of hit knockback. Hit back, knockback, hit back, knock on. Okay, so this is a good one. This is a very, very good one. I don't think it's quite AFK God mode, but I'm gonna put this at the top of OP for now. Obviously, if I had the other box, that would be above that, because you can select this with that box, but I forgot to put it on because I'm a fucking idiot. But just use your fucking imagination, alright? Come on. So yes, this thing is quite good. It's at the top of OP. It's not quite AFK God mode because it's more of like a supplement to your AFK God mode. Like if you have this, this is like another juicy thing that you can grab, and you just sit there and not have to worry about walking around or running around or doing anything really. You can just win the game for free. But it's not quite there by itself. Alright, next up we've got Thunder Loop. Thunder Loop, very, very good. Obviously, it's the evolution of Lightning Ring and Duplicator. So obviously, Lightning Ring, very good, very highly taken. Duplicator, I've said like 4 or 5 times already, is an instant pick for me if I see it. unless I don't have room for my very specific build, but like 95% of the time, if I see Duplicator, I'm going to take it. Or if it's on the map, that's also kind of a bonus. It's just, if it's on the map, honestly, for me, it's kind of annoying. Like, I think it's on the tower. I might be wrong, but I know it's on 1 or 2 maps. If it's on the map, it's kind of annoying because that means that I can't get it early. Because the way that I always do it is I fill up my passives, and then you can pick up the extra items on the stage without having it affect your max of 6, so you can have more passives than that. So it's kind of like a first world problem thing for me, where it's like, oh, I have to wait until I have 6 passives before I can go and pick up Thunderloop. But whatever. Or before Duplicator. But anyway, Thunderloop. This is nice. Again, like Lightning Ring, it just summons lightning strikes from the sky, deals damage to random enemies, and then the lightning strikes again after a small delay. So it basically doubles the attack rate of the lightning ring. And then when it hits the ground, it creates an orange circle that like sparkles, and then that hitbox lingers, and then I think that hitbox will do damage also. So it's kind of like a mini Santa Water, sort of. And then obviously bonus to area affects how big the hitbox is. Tragic Princess Arcana works with this, and that's pretty much it. So it does 65 damage base, which is very nice, 4 area, which is good, and then 6 amount. So effectively, you're doing 12 lightning strikes every 4.5 seconds, which is pretty good. Again, no projectile interval or anything like that, which is quite nice. So it's just lightning bolt. It's just lightning ring plus, basically. I think I would put this. I think I'd put this here. Here. We'll go here. Just because it does a shitload of damage. If you have cooldown reduction, it's very nice. But yeah, I mean, 12 lightning bolts. It basically will clear the map in the mid-minutes. Late minutes, it will just do a shitload of damage, basically, because it's 12 bolts coming, or 6 bolts coming down, but each bolt hits twice, or does another attack. Alright, next up, Gorgeous Moon. This is the evolution of Pentagram and Crown. So, unfortunately, to get this evolution, you need 2 pieces of shit. You need the basically worthless Pentagram, and you have to deal with this thing stealing your experience, your treasure chest, your money, the entire run. And the Crown doesn't really help, because it just gives you growth, which is experience gain, which this fucking thing deletes 90% of the fucking time. Or it seems like it, at least. And like I said, if you're going for a deep run, you're going to get levels. You're going to get so many fucking levels. It's just so annoying to actually get. So basically what this does is it's pretty similar to Pentagram, where it erases enemies on screen, but it no longer destroys pickups. Yeah! You had to evolve it for it to not just straight up hurt you. So it generates additional experience. So it's kind of a weird thing. So what it does is there's like 3 phases. So there's the first phase, it occurs 3 seconds after the cooldown, after it finishes, right? So basically the Gorgeous Moon symbol appears on the ground, and then it pulses, and then it chimes and does like a musical thing, and then it targets the closest enemies on the screen with a moonbeam that erases them, and then it generates uniquely colored experience gems, which I think they mean orange, yellow, and like purple or something like that, and they yield 1 experience next to their usual gem drop. So I think it just gives you +1 experience or something like that than the normal amount, something like that. And then the attack frequency increases over time until the next phase. So it starts off at 0.7 seconds for 8 beams, then it goes to 0.375 for 4, 0.2 for 8, and then you get a total of 20 of them over the course of like 9 seconds, 10 seconds. So then the second phase is after after the first phase. So obviously it's 12.1 seconds. It's like 12 seconds. So it's 3 seconds after the cooldown, and then the 9 seconds of the first phase. So it's 12. Ends up being 12 seconds. So then a waxing crescent symbol appears, and then it breaks, and it shatters it erases all the enemies on the screen, and it does not destroy items. And then also enemies erased also drop an extra gem, like one of the experience gems. Then the third phase is the vacuum, which is I think like over the course of 2 or 3 seconds, it just sucks all of the experience points in, all the gems. Basically the same as the actual vacuum pickup. So with that being said, it's kind of mediocre. It can be affected by cooldown bonuses. It has a 60-second cooldown normally. So every minute this thing would go off. I think that's how that works. And it sucks. I mean, you can get it down pretty far, because by default it's a minute, but you can get it down with cooldown, but you can only get it down to 15 seconds no matter how much additional cooldown reduction you have. So the most you can do is have it trigger every 15 seconds, which is pretty good, but again, there are some enemies like bosses and things like that that are just not affected by this. So with that being said, it's obviously better than the Pentagram, because it actually does damage. It does do some damage to enemies, and it gives you more experience, I guess, and it doesn't delete all of your shit, which is the most annoying thing. But I'm gonna put it in the kind of doggy tier, because again, it only triggers every 15 seconds, best case scenario. Worst case scenario, every minute. And it's only a 30-minute run most of the time, so you're not really gonna be dealing with this very much. So I'm going to put this below Soul Eater just a little bit. I might actually put this... yeah, I think it's a bit better than Four Seasons, but not by much. Again, it just doesn't help you with the big threats. It does give you more experience, I guess, which, cool. Whatever. It's just pretty mid. Unfortunately, the Pentagram and Gorgeous Moon kind of got shafted. Alright, so next up is the Vicious Hunger. We're almost done. we're getting there. Vicious Hunger is the evolution of Gatti Amari, the cat, and the Stone Mask. So what this does is it summons a giant eyeballs, where normally it would summon the cats, and then they travel in a straight line most of the time, and then they do damage when they come in contact with enemies. It does more damage than the cats. And it has more duration, a big increase in the cooldown, so I should say not nice, and the amount is also lowered by 1. So it has a 1 second hitbox delay also, but it also has a chance to transmute enemies killed into gold coins, which is kind of cool. I think that's pretty cool. It has a bunch of different interactions, so it kind of acts like the cat's plus, I would say. It does 30 damage instead of the 10 base damage as before. Goes down to 2 amount instead of having the 3 cats running around base. Lasts for 7 seconds instead of 8. Has a higher cooldown. And yeah, I don't know. It's about as good as the cats, I would say. As an evolution, it's kind of unfortunate. It does more damage, obviously, but you no longer get the scuffle boxes and stuff like that, but also at the same time they don't hurt you like the cats would. So I think I'm gonna put this it does more damage. I'm gonna put this above the flower. It's not a great evolution. This does work with Gemini though, the Arcana, which makes it a little better. However, it's whatever. It's good if you're going for a money run, because it can turn enemies into gold, I guess. But even then, like, there's better ways of farming gold that doesn't involve this. I guess you could involve it if you wanted. It's kind of like but whatever, you know what I mean. It's not really that the gold aspect isn't really a big deal when it comes to deep runs. Alright, moving on to the Mannajja. This is the evolution of the Song of Mana and the Skull-O-Matic. So, of course, the Song of Mana is quite good. Skull-O-Matic, not particularly good. It just gives Curse, which is objectively kind of a bad thing unless you're going for like a Bocce run where you're trying to get your luck really low and your curse really high. But in that case, I would just switch it and go with my curse being really low and my luck being really high. That's just me. I think you can get a higher top end if you're going with higher curse though, so whatever. So this is pretty nice. So basically what it does, it shoots a pulse waves of sparkling particles out in circles. So instead of like a straight up line, it does like circles out from where your position is. It covers a lot wider area, but it has a little bit longer of a cooldown. Doesn't really end up I don't really end up noticing it that much, I think. But also, enemies that get hit by this are permanently slowed, which is nice. If it's not immune to debuffs, then each hit will bring it up to a maximum. It does 5% slow up to a maximum of 20%. So this thing is very nice. It has a 1 second hitbox delay, which is a little bit. It's more than than like the flask or what have you. But this thing's pretty nice. The Blood Astromina Arcana also triggers with this, which just makes it it's just like a win more thing for this. So with this, I'm putting this in the AFK God mode at the bottom. It does 40 damage. It has a giant area, 2 second duration, slows enemies that it doesn't kill. This thing just helps you live. It just helps you keep living. And if you pair this with anything else in here, like with the Bible, you just get a giant safe zone circle around you that makes it very difficult for enemies to get into. And if they do, you can run away because they're slowed 20% permanently until they die. This thing is quite nice. Again, the only downside is that you have to pick up the Skull-O-Matic, the curse skull. But you can get away with banishing it after you pick it up, so you don't have to level it up anymore if you don't want to. Or if you just want to level it up and get denser enemy spawns and higher levels. But it's up to you. It's not a straight up downside, but it is not really a good item that you would want to be taking. All right, next up we've got Valkyrie Tuner. This is the evolution of Shadow, Pinion, and Wings. Both pretty mid to good tier weapons and items. So similar to the Shadow Pinion, when you move, it spawns fire behind you, which like accelerates backwards and deals damage to enemies walking over them. And then again, when you stop, all of them are fired like a giant fucking prismatic laser beam in the direction the character is facing. So this is basically just like a better Shadow Pinion. It does 35 damage. Has a pretty good area. It's like 1.4. You only get one amount, I guess, but I don't think it really matters because you just every single step that you take will generate a fire, and then the beams will charge up and then shoot. And of course, movement speed again increases the overall spawn rate. It's the same as Shadow Pinion basically, except just better. And cooler looking because it's fire and like a big fucking laser beam thing. So with that being said, it's obviously better than Shadow Pinion. I don't think it's that much better than Shadow Pinion because it's still kind of annoying to use when you're playing on controller. It's just, I mean, it's cool. It can sometimes do like full screen clears if you're moving properly. But it's kind of, you know, I don't typically go for this very often. So moving on to Infinite Corridor. Infinite Corridor, one of the items that you are definitely going to want if you are going to kill death. So this is the evolution of Clockwork Lancet, this piece of shit down here, and the silver and gold rings, which are items that are on most of the maps. Silver ring is good, the gold ring increases curse when you level it up. You need all of them to be at maximum level in order for this to evolve, which takes a fucking long time. So what it does is it fires freezing beams around the player in 12 directions, clockwise one at a time. So it's like a clock, obviously. The freezing beam does not do damage, but it will freeze any enemy it hits. After it's completed the full rotation and fires at the 12 o'clock thing, it places like a rainbow aura around you, which halves the health of every enemy on the screen. So this is key to defeating Death. This thing is so key, because Death has such a high fucking health pool. It is so difficult to kill him without this. So this thing will solo Death for you sometimes. Well, not solo, it literally can't, but this thing will carry you so hard. That being said, it's very difficult to get. It's annoying. It doesn't actually do damage on itself. It just halves the health pool of the enemies. But this is very key. So I would say in a normal run, I'm gonna put this in good at the bottom, probably, because again, by itself it doesn't do damage. It just halves the health. It does like freeze a shitload of stuff, but again, freeze is kind of like a win more mechanic. And then the asterisk comes in. If you are going for a kill death run, this becomes the most important item that you need, because this thing has Death's huge health pool every 12 seconds. Freezes him. It helps with the freeze, which prevents him from instantly killing your ass. So with the asterisk, that if you're not going for a killing death run, it's just good. Probably more work than it's worth. If you are going for a kill death run, you get this. You get this. If you don't get this, you have a bad time. You get this. This goes up here. But we're doing normal run, so yeah, that's pretty much it for Infinite Corridor. Moving on to Crimson Shroud. This is another item that you need. Basically, it's the evolution of Laurel and Metaglio left and right. So again, similar to Clockwork Lancet, you have to have this Laurel and then go and pick up both of those items and get them all to max rank, which is very time consuming, similar to Infinite Corridor. So what this does is it creates a shield that protects from damage, similar to the thing, to Laurel. Makes you invulnerable upon triggering, and then its color changes based on the number of charges. So red is the most amount of charges, then it goes to orange, and then it goes to yellow, I think, at the last one. Then it does retaliatory damage when a charge is used, and then it creates shockwaves with like it creates like a shockwave. Another good thing about this is all incoming damage is capped at 10. So if you take damage, it is capped at 10 no matter what. So this thing is another very useful item for when you're trying to kill Death, because I don't think it will cap his damage, but it does give you the invulns for which is nice if he manages to break out of his stunlock jail. So I mean, this thing is fine. I'm going to put this probably, with how much work you have to go through, with how little gain you get, I'm going to put this like, this is probably on the same level as Laurel. It's obviously better because it has additional effects, but you have to go through so much effort to get it, and it doesn't really do that much. But again, if you're going for a kill death run, this kind of shoots up probably to OP, not quite as high as needing this, but this gets up there. It's very helpful, just in case. Okay, so... Ah, fuck, I forgot to put Ashes on here. I thought I did. Damn it. Okay, whatever. Ashes of Musspell. We can pretend like this is on here. Ah, damn it. Okay, so this is the evolution of Flames of Misspell and Torana's Box. Basically what this does is it spawn. So normally you'll have it in the front with the Flames of Misspell, but the Ashes of Musspell will have a backwards facing flame also, and it turns it gray or black, has a bigger area, increased duration, and a lower cooldown. It's pretty nice. Also, it has an infinitely scaling damage every 5,000 enemies that you kill. Its base damage is increased by 1 with no cap, so it can get very, very strong. It does 50 damage base. It has a 2-second cooldown, and it's an AoE. So this thing is quite nice. If I had it here, I would probably put this at the top of good or at the bottom of OP, but I thought that I took a cap of it and uploaded it, but I guess I didn't. So professional tier list maker at your service. Sorry. So yes, bottom of OP, top of good probably. I'm sorry, I'm rushing a little bit. I'm almost done. I can see the light and I'm fucking hungry. Okay, Festive Winds. This is the DLC evolution of Silverwind and Pumarola, the Red Heart. So what this does is it shoots energy orbs similar to the Silver Wind, but this one does like green colors instead of blue, I think. And then the orbs become like little leaves instead of like orbs. So this is pretty much the same normally as the as Silverwind, except it lowers the defensive of enemies. So it basically just applies a damage multiplier debuff to them. And every time it hits, it will apply that. I think it increases damage by 2% or something like that every hit. It has a 0.5 second hitbox delay, obviously, which is pretty similar. And then it has the same 5% chance to generate little hearts. So this is another item that's kind of good if you're going for death. I think death can be debuffed. But anyway, it's pretty good when you're going for like bosses, or I think the end boss you might be able to debuff. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have bothered listening this far. So this, I mean, it's just a better version of Silverwind, really. So it's not that much better, but it is better. So I'm going to put it right above Silverwind in the OK tier. I might consider putting it above the axe, but I mean, it still only does 30 damage. I mean, it's a good amount. It does 30 damage. Basically the only thing it gets is the debuff, the damage debuff, which is good. It's just, I don't think it's enough. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, it evolves. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. Sorry, I thought I forgot to mention how it evolves, but I'm a fool. All right, next up is Godai Shuffle. This is the evolution of 4 seasons, and you need Spinach and Candelabrador, and I think you need them all maxed. I might be wrong, but you need at least the 4 seasons maxed, probably, and I think Candelabrador. Not sure if you need Spinach maxed. So basically what this does is it's similar to 4 seasons, where it makes beads that orbit around them, but this time it causes 5 explosions instead of 4, and then does like rocks, bamboo, leaves, fire, and like water and stuff like that. Something like that. And it does it in the corners of the map, and it and then the last one blows up on you, I think. So it does more base damage and has a lot more amount, which is nice. But still, I don't think it's that good. So it does 10 base damage, and it has 5 amount, which is 4 more than the 4 seasons. I mean, it is better than the 4 seasons, but it's not that much better. So I'm just gonna put it right above it. It still doesn't really do that much damage, and the cooldown is 5 seconds, which is kind of a long time. So I'll put it right there. All right, next up is Echo Knight. This item is quite nice. This is the evolution of Summon Knight and Duplicator, which again, like I said, are both very, very strong. So again, this summons the claws above and below the character. So not just coming from the top, it forms like teeth almost. From the top and bottom of the screen, and then again it leaves behind the lingering damage of the Dark Zone thing. It does 30 base damage, which is more than the Summon Knight. Gets longer, shorter cooldown. The amount is technically lowered by 1, but it's also technically doubled because it comes from the bottom too, so it's whatever, it's weird. And then hitbox delay is slightly longer, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. Not a big deal. Area affects how far the claws reach again. So with this, if you have area, this I've seen this go literally the entire screen. Once you get this upgraded, you will kill everything on the screen with this. It just comes down, does damage, leaves lingering zones all over the screen that does more damage. It's very nice. I think this is nearing AFK God mode. I think I'd put this above the Mannajja. Actually, yeah, I think I'd put the. Yeah, I think right about here. You could make an argument for it being better than Unholy Vespers, but at the end of the day, it does a little bit less damage. But it's such a big area that it affects. It's very nice, especially if you get a mount and area. It just cleans the whole map up every like 2 seconds or something. All right, we have the Jodore. This is the evolution of the Mirage Orb and Mirage Robe and Attract Orb. Two pretty mediocre things. So what it does is it shoots out like mirages, which looks again like the after image, and it freezes enemies. But this time, enemies can get confused by the after image, and they'll like chase after them instead of the player. So it's a little bit better with that. It has more base damage, more amount. It can also pierce, has a higher chance to explode than the normal Jodore. Excuse me. And movement speed affects how fast the mirages move too. But the thing is, the effect is just not that good. I mean, at least the enemies will follow it, so it's kind of like a reverse projectile, where instead of you aiming the projectile at the enemies, because you can't, it's the enemies aiming themselves at the projectile, which is kind of weird. I think honestly it's just only a bit better than the normal Mirage Robe. It does more damage. It does 60 damage. It has less area though. The duration is down as well. But the cooldown, whatever. It has Pierce, and it has a better chance of exploding. But other than that, I wouldn't really go for this unless, again, you're just going for the unlock. Moving on to Buru Bul. This is the evolution of Mille Bolle Blu, the Bubbles, and the Spellbinder. So Spellbinder's good. Bubbles are okay. So this shoots out like different colorful bubbles to the closest enemy, which lingers on the ground, similar to the first level of bubbles. This does more base damage and has a much higher area, but the amount is lowered. But now each bubble can hit multiple enemies multiple times with a 0.5 second hitbox delay. So this one you can really barricade off Tiny Bridge or some other area or something like that. So it ends up doing 20 damage in an area of effect. Again, 2 second cooldown. Pretty solid. This one does have a hitbox delay, meaning it can hit it can hit the same enemy multiple times. That being said, it's kind of mediocre. I think it's a little bit better than the birds. Not by much though. Just because it does a little bit more damage and it's bigger. Yeah, I think about there is good. All right, now to Muramasa. This is the last of the evolutions, I believe. This is the DLC. Evolution of the Night Sword and the Stone Mask. So this is a bit of an interesting one. So again, it does slashes at the closest enemy, and then it has retaliation slashes. The base damage is basically, it has a lower cooldown. The base damage is doubled from the Night Sword, which is a lot. It is a good amount. It goes to 80. And then the amount for each slash is also lowered a little bit. It has a 10% chance of generating little hearts that heal 1 point of health when you kill it, which is 10 times more than its base form. Whatever. It's affected by luck also. It gains a finisher as well, causing every 5th slash to become a vertical slash, so it's again like a mini fully upgraded version of Victory Sword. But the thing is, using it will drain your health. So you can kill yourself by accident with this. So you're going to want to have healing. I mean, it can generate little hearts by itself, but you're going to want something like the Bloody Tear or like Crimson Shroud or something like that to offset the healing, or just get lucky and pick up a lot of chickens, whatever. It's pretty good. Again, it does 80 damage. The amount is lowered. The cooldown is lowered a little bit to 1.5 seconds. It just does a shitload of damage. It also has base critical hit chance. And again, this scales with slash, making it very strong. The thing is, the fact that it can just kill you sometimes makes it a little bit worse. I'm going to put it at the bottom of OP, which is kind of funny because the Night Sword is above it. But like I said, you need healing to use this. It does become very strong. It does a lot of damage. If you have both of these, you're cutting through people like crazy. But you need healing in order to offset the you dying. The 10% chance to generate little hearts helps a bit, but in my experience, I found you need a little bit more to help you out than just the sword. So that's it for the evolutions. Now we'll go on to the. We don't have very much left. So this is a union. Can you even see? Okay, you can't see this good. The first union is Vandalier. This is the union between Peachone and Ebony Wings, the two birds. So this is an interesting thing. Basically, it has two areas that circle in both directions, so it's obvious. It's just a combination of the two birds. And then a good thing is when it unions, it frees up a weapon slot that you can add something else to. And it also scales well with Gemini if you're going for a Gemini Arcana run. So the Vandalier, it flies around and has two circling zones of projectiles. They revolve around you clockwise and counterclockwise. The base damage is basically combined, the amount and combined, the base damage and the amount is basically the combined total of the two birds. The projectiles is a little bit less, and it reverts the cooldown bonus, but it increases projectile speed, which is cool. So by default, it fires 4 sets of 20 projectiles, and then they all just fire at the same spot and blast someone. It does like 28 damage. But the thing is, you can level it up. It has 8 levels. At the max level, it has a plus 80% area and a minus 0.75 second cooldown, which is nice. It's not really anything fancy. It's just more levels to sink into it. Having a plus 80% more area is very nice. And then the cooldown brings it to... Where's the cooldown? It brings it to a quarter of a second, basically, at max level, which is pretty good. That being said, it's obviously better than the two birds, even together. It's just a bit inconsistent. I can't really put it below like knife or anything like that. I'm gonna put it in okay. I think I'm gonna put it at the top of okay, because it is a union. It's a little bit harder to get because you have to get both birds and level them all the way up. And the payoff is technically better than just having the two birds by themselves in many ways, but it's not like that. It's not like, measures and measures better than them. You could have just gone for like the good shit, Yeah, he's a good bird. All right, next is the Phiera. This is the gun bundle. It is the union of Phiera del Tuphello and 8 the Sparrow, the quad guns up here. And then you also need the Tiragisu, which is the revival cake thing. It gives you an additional revival. So this thing is cool. It shoots 4 lasers that like rotate around your character. It does scale with amount, so if you do have more amount, it will give you more lasers. It doesn't really have as much knockback, but they also pass through walls, and they go through the whole map. With enough cooldown, you can get these to be permanently on, and they can like stack on each other too, which is kind of funny. So you can almost double the amount of lasers you have on the damage. Each revival that you have gives it +1 amount and +1 base damage, and it caps at +10. So the more revivals you have, the more damage this does. It does a base 15 damage with a 1.4 second cooldown, but again, you can get that to be permanently up with very little effort. Hitbox delay is 0.2 seconds, which is better than average, I would say. So you can kind of melt people down with this. And again, it is pretty nice. And if you have Arcana, you get like a doubled up version. And then you also get to keep the red muscle and the Twice Upon a Time, which are basically the identical things of the two quad guns normally. So this is quite nice. I'm gonna put this in the good tier. Probably me. I'm gonna put this above the Death Scythe. Not by much though, because the Death Scythe does more damage, but this is up more consistently, so it evens out a little bit in my eyes. The only problem is this one is more annoying to get, unless you're playing Pugnala. That's pretty much it. Alright, so the last union is the fucking weird brain. Fualafu Wufulu. Fuafalafu? Fuafalafu? I don't know what the fuck this thing is called. So this is the union between Vento Sacro and Bloody Tear, which is an evolution, the evolution of the Whip and the Empty Heart. So this thing is pretty nice. So this creates a lot of so it uses the Vento Sacro thing where it slashes horizontally in front of them. It does like multiple slashes. The base damage is very well increased, but it is a little bit less than the Bloody Tears base damage. It's increased over the Vento Sacro. It has more slashes as well. It has more knockback, more duration. Again, movement speed increases the overall fire rate. And cooldown and projectile speed makes the slashes go further out. It's capable of doing crits by default, which is good, at a 5% chance. And then every time you damage an enemy, you get, with a critical hit, you heal for 8 points, similar to Bloody Tear. And this time it only has a 0.5 second delay instead of a 1 second delay like Bloody Tear has. And then critical hits also trigger an explosion, which has a 0.5 second delay. That spawns on top of the enemy and then deals the critical damage, and the explosions are affected by area. So this thing's nice. Again, same with the Vento Sacro. It gains bonuses from walking. It caps, if you non-stop walk, it caps at a 40 flat damage bonus. So if you stop walking, similar to Vento Sacro, it gets deleted, but if you continue walking, it can do a shitload of damage. So it does 20 base damage. It has an 8 amount, which is the slashes, and then the big, the fast slashes, and then the big horizontal slashes. So this thing is very solid. This thing will keep you alive pretty easily. So again, it's similar to Bloody Tear, except it's hitting way more often than Bloody Tear. So it has a much better chance of critting, and has a much better chance of exploding and healing you for the 8 points. The 8 points of health every time. So this thing will keep you alive pretty nicely. It has this little slash, and then it has like a circle around it, and then the big slashes off to the left and right. So this thing is pretty nice. I'm gonna put this at the bottom of AFK God mode, I think, because once you get this, you are healing for a lot. You don't really have to move that much. And then it scales with slash as well, which again doubles the damage of the crits, and then does 4 times, which is a fucking lot, and you don't even have to do that much, honestly. Alright, so the final item. Technically this is a gift. It is not a union, it's not a evolution, it's called Soul Solution, which requires Victory Sword to be at the maximum level, and you need Tirana's Box at the maximum level. So Victory Sword, obviously, very, 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 very strong. Tirana's Box is also very good, deep run item. Soul Solution, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is the best thing in the entire fucking game. It is annoying how good this is and how not difficult it is once you unlock Victory Sword into the actual item pool. It's good. Another good thing about it is it's a gift. So what that means is it doesn't use the item and combine them. It doesn't turn the Victory Sword into Soul Solution. You just get it. You just get it, and you get Victory Sword still. So this thing is crazy. So basically what this does is before it attacks, it generates like sparkles on them, on your character. Then it like summons a giant fucking galaxy that swirls around the entire map, damaging everything on the screen, and the character cannot be hit until it ends. Then when it ends, it goes the other way and then shrinks. So while you are unkillable, untargetable, you can still collect pickups, but you can, like, everything will still go to where you are on the map, but until you come back onto the map, like, for instance, if you get a bunch of experience gems, you won't level up until you're tangible again, I guess. So it starts out at 10 base damage, which isn't really that much, but the base damage increases by 1 for every 5,000 enemies killed without a cap, and it has a 0.1 second hitbox delay, meaning that it's doing 10 damage every 0.1 second, and that is going up by 1 for every 5,000 enemies that you kill. This thing is incredible. It's so good. It doesn't really start out with that much damage, but you have Victory Sword already, so you're not worrying about damage, really, and then it just keeps buffing. But the main thing is the galaxy, the duration of it is like 10 seconds. You are unkillable, undamageable, untargetable for 10 seconds. And it has a 20-second cooldown. But again, that can be mitigated with the Empty Tome and other things. But, I mean, I said before for, like, Gorgeous Moon, like, having a 15-second cooldown was not ideal. Like, it's a very long time. For this, it is worth it because you do so much damage. You're unkillable. This, again, is a very nice item to get when you're going for a killing death run because he can't touch you for the 10 seconds that you're in this thing. So every 20 seconds, 10 seconds, you're invulnerable. And then the other part of that is hopefully he's just being frozen to death and being killed with the clockwork, with the infinite corridor. This thing's nice. This thing is the best. You can literally sit still probably with only this and win if you get yourself in a nice enough position. You might need something else because of the 20 seconds that it's not being active for, but you can get like this and you don't have to do anything. You don't even need passives, just these. And you can just sit there. Very, very strong. So that is all of the weapons that are currently in Vampire Survivors. I think I might move some stuff around. Again, I forgot to put on the the ashes of Musspell and the victory box, but again, I think the victory box would be up here or like over here, and the flames or the ashes would be at the end of OP, at the top of good, probably. I'm just going to take a quick look. I mean, everything seems to be in order. I mean, I'm kind of not super sure about this, but just this being able to kill you and doing so much damage to you is really annoying. Down here, this is obviously pretty much what we're looking at. I might even be tempted to put Laurel down there, but maybe this deserves to go up a little bit. It's not. It does more damage than Garlic, so I'll push these up. Yeah, I think that's it. So I think I might do another tier list for the characters, but I think that'll depend on the starting weapons a lot. I'll probably do one for the passives. Maybe I'll do one for the Arcanas. We'll see. And then if people care, I might do runs. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. If you watched this far, subscribe, like, favorite, subscribe, send it to your dog. Thanks.